over Skinwalker Ranch.
No credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
Game over Skinwalker Ranch. Game over Skinwalker Ranch.
No credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
Game over Skinwalker Ranch. Game over Skinwalker Ranch.
No credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
Game over Skinwalker Ranch. Game over Skinwalker Ranch.
No credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity.
We grifters, 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 we grifters. For the masses.
Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo.
For the masses.
Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo, Luis Elizondo.
For the masses. Yeah. For the masses.
Good trouble shows, good trouble shows, good trouble shows, good trouble shows.
For the
Soul Foundation.
yeah.
The Soul Foundation.
For the we grifters, grifters. Yeah. We grifters, grifters. For the masses.
We the people have to come together. We the people have to come together.
For the masses.
We the people have to come together. We the people have to come together.
Hi everyone, here and around the world. Tall right, Nordic, tall right, Nordic. Hi everyone, here and around the world. Tall right, Nordic, tall right, Nordic. The tall white extraterrestrials. Nordic, the tall white extraterrestrials. Nordic, the tall white extraterrestrials. Nordic, tall white, Nordic, tall white, Nordic.
UFO disclosure. UFO craft and bodies. UFO disclosure. UFO craft and bodies. UFO disclosure. UFO craft and bodies. UFO disclosure. UFO craft and bodies.
People who might not buy everything you're saying, who are skeptics, have said over and over again, he has no first-hand knowledge. He has no first-hand knowledge. Maybe we shouldn't believe you. When you say you have first-hand knowledge, maybe we shouldn't believe you.
Legally, the fact that we're not alone. We've recovered material and we've recovered documents. And beyond that, the fact that we're not alone. We've recovered material and we've recovered documents. And beyond that, ontologically shocking but also uniting. Any evidence. Ontologically shocking but also uniting. Any evidence. I'm an intel guy. Ontologically shocking but also uniting. Any evidence. Ontologically shocking but also uniting. Any evidence. I'm an intel guy. Daniel P. Sheehan, classified. Daniel P. Sheehan, classified. Daniel P. Sheehan, classified. Daniel P. Sheehan, classified. Crash retrieval operation. Psychological phenomena. Crash retrieval operation. Psychological phenomena.
The death of UFO transparency. The death of UFO transparency. The death of UFO transparency. The death of UFO transparency.
For the masses. Says
transparency. The death of UFO transparency. The death of UFO transparency. The death of UFO transparency.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome. Tonight, we're going to be taking a little bit of a detour of sorts. Some time ago, tonight's guest sent me some of their work, and we were supposed to do sort of a talk about that. And, I don't know, life gets in the way. I don't remember exactly why he didn't come here back when he sent me these, but many of you are aware of his work. And that is Estimate of the Situation. Now, we all know how I feel about a certain secret space clown trying to sell Disclosure comics. Not a fan, but I have to say that he sent me like 2 issues, which are really bigger than a regular comic, like about twice the length, I would say. I don't know, I grew up with comics, but it's been a long time. And then there's this, which is basically an entire graphic novel. And I have to say that these are interesting in that there's an intersection of UFO mythology, real history, secret government projects like the, mythological secret projects like back engineering the Horton Flying V, perhaps, and the stealth program and other things. These are incredibly well done. And one of the things that struck me was the quality of these. When you hear about a guy that's sort of, we'll hear about his history tonight, but when I hear about a guy that just decided to make comic books about UFOs, aliens, and the Disclosure thing, I don't know. I guess I have very low expectations, but one of the things that I realized while reading these is that the artwork and the writing and I suppose the research involved with these are top notch. Like I really enjoyed all 3 of these. And it's been a while, so I noticed from his website that he's got a few new projects that I don't have, which I will be buying because I like supporting independent artists, and I'm interested in hearing, how does this come together? It's very interesting, and the quality. I grew up with Marvel and DC and maybe some other Todd McFarlane graphic novels. The quality is just as good as any of the big companies, which was surprising to me. I guess I hate to say that I had low expectations, but I guess that I did. So tonight we're going to be talking about his work and I don't know, just UFO land in general, maybe, right? Maybe that would be a good thing to do. Let me just fix my background and we'll bring him right in here. Estimate of the Situation, welcome.
What's up, man? What's going on? I love how honest you are.
Oh, thanks. And you tweeted this clip. So for those unaware, somebody once in the live chat said, "Hey, Steve Cambion, this estimate of the situation. He's CIA, isn't he?" And I just said yes, because I say yes every time somebody asks me if somebody's in the CIA. But it's pretty funny that became like.
Love that clip. I have sent it to all my friends. It's that one and the Stephen Greer porta potty clip. I've sent.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, see, sometimes these guys tell on themselves. For those unaware, Stephen Greer charged like $500 for everybody to attend a Disclosure event. And then he gets up to speak and he tells everybody that there's this secret base where they're back engineering alien technology. And then he shows drawings of it and there's porta potties all outside. There's like this huge row of porta potties. And then everybody parks their car next to the porta potties and somehow goes. So we made a whole joke of this, the porta potty secret alien base. It's so stupid, right? I mean, it's just so dumb. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of, I just said something recently, and that is that like I really enjoy, one of my guilty pleasures is like picking the brains of like powerful, creative, artistic people. And like
Oh, you got the
I
wrong
just
guy.
I love it though. Did you make other comics like superhero comics first?
No,
Or
I mean, when I was a kid, maybe I grew up on a lot of Spider-Man comics. I grew up with Bendis, Hickman. I think Secret
McFarlane?
Wars was like the last one that I really read. But I just always wanted to do it, and I was like, shit, why not? Why not just try it? It can't be that hard. And little did I know, like
Yeah, that's like somebody once. I'm a musician, or I was. I'm still a musician and songwriter, but just a hobby now. But like somebody once asked me if I could write a symphony for them, and I go, "Oh yeah, no problem." Right. And then I had to research, and I went, "What did I just agree to?" It wasn't kind of like that. Like you had no idea what you were getting into with
Dude,
this.
we had a Kickstarter earlier in the year, and like John and I are on the hook, honestly, for 2 more issues, and we're just like every day now we're like, oh my god, what do we get ourselves into? It's just it's a lot of work, but it's something that it's fun, and you kind of like. One of the reasons I did do it was because a lot of UFO stuff kind of sucks, and I was like, well, why? I don't think it's that hard. I think the mystery's interesting enough, right? Like, so, one thing led to another. And again, like here we are, like I'm a micro celebrity, in a micro niche community, I guess.
Yeah, you're in a tiny subculture,
Yeah.
That's why I love the term UFO celebrity. Like there are cosplayers that get more views than this shit. There are people unboxing toys on YouTube that get more views than this shit. You're not a celebrity, right? Well, but I see you have, what is that, like storyboarded parts? You're like putting together stuff behind you?
I have 2 8-foot cork boards behind me, and this actually I got to take down because I'm on issue 4 now. But this was issue 3. And we get the sketches from the artist. Like I send him sketches, I storyboard it. He sends me back like something a little bit more cleaned up, which is what you see here. And then
so that's how you do it. Like you draw it all shitty and then you give it to a real artist.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I have no talent whatsoever.
No, I thought you were drawing all this shit, right?
No, man. No.
I didn't read the credits like a lot of people,
There's
right?
3 people on the credits.
Just take it. Just take the credit for it,
No.
Like when I was in bands, like people would tell me like, "Oh, I bought your CD," or what. That's how long ago I was in bands. People were still buying CDs, and they would go, "Oh man, the guitars on that song were just incredible." I didn't play it. I'd go, "Yeah, thanks." Like
I just feel too guilty, man. I feel like one day, you know what I mean? Like Ezekiel will just like find me. He'll like fly over from.
Well, you're like the producer, and you're like putting this all together, so.
Yes. So I write and
still takes a lot of talent. Yeah, it takes a lot of talent. I'm going to share my screen. You have a website where people can get this stuff, and it's but I'm going to give the store website. It's store.blacktielabs.nyc. And I realize selfishly that I only have a couple of these, and I can support you. But this one's number 3 is sold out.
It says sold out, but we're actually working on that right now. And
okay, so it's not out yet.
No. This is like, I don't know if you can see how thick it is, but we are working on it here. Basically, number 3 is like over 120 pages.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll solo you. You could show.
No, that's cool.
Look at 300 pages. Jeez. Look at this.
Over 120 pages for number 3.
Oh, right? 120. Wow.
Yeah. So like
that's kind of crazy.
My notes. Dude, and well, that's the cool part about like being your own producer, right? Is that you, like most comic books, like I bought a couple today. They're somewhere around. You get like 26 pages if you're lucky, right?
That's what I was saying. That these ones that you sent me are like 3 or 4 times the size of a regular like comic that you buy at a comic shop. So it's all these 2 are almost like a mini graphic novel, and I guess this one's like a graphic novel.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's part of the reason too. Is like I really wanted to give back to this community in a way that like maybe someone hasn't before, where it's like, you know what, like why just do the bare minimum? Why just give you like, like the 26 pages of just like some UFO stuff and like, it's cool, it's whatever. besides all the research that goes into this and like trying to keep it historically accurate, you get a lot of bang for your buck, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
was
like,
impressed with the history because I'm sort of a history buff about all this stuff. And I was like, wow, they actually researched this. They didn't just slap together, like, and I don't want to put you on the spot or make you trash another creator, but I don't know if you're aware, but some secret space clown said that he was going to be making a graphic novel, and it took him like 8 years. It took him like 8 years. He took pre-orders for like 8 years. Well, I don't know if it was 8 years, but it was 5 years for sure.
Was this
and
a
then
Stephen
when he
Greer comic?
No, that one was a piece of shit too, though. Yo, that one had Michael Schratt. I felt so bad for Michael Schratt because in the Greer comic, they had Michael Schratt talking to Donald Trump going, we got to bring in Dr. Greer to get you a briefing about the aliens. And I was just like, oh my God, did they ask him or did they just put him in this comic book? And like,
hey, there's a place for that too. There's a place for that too.
I was talking about Corey Good's comic book though.
God. I almost bought that.
It was so bad. I have it. It's so bad. It is so bad. And then a lot of people don't know this, but he got caught. Like yours is very, like the artwork, you could tell that this is good artwork. Every one of them, you could tell that somebody really sat down and really drew their ass off. And the style is, you got two then. And so it was so well done that my only other experience was the Corey Good comic book, which was, a lot of people don't know this, but he took pre-orders for 5 years, and then somebody figured out. No, but listen, somebody figured out that they didn't draw some of this shit. They just took video. They took stills like from videos of Corey Good, God. And then they put some kind of filter on it so it looked like a comic book.
Okay,
and they just put it in the book.
This is a perfect segue, right, into again, like I feel like a lot of the UFO content is just so low effort, right? With stuff like that. And I'm sure it's sold because that dude made millions of dollars. And like, I have a history of Corey Good and David Wilcock going back probably to like when I was like 19, right? So I have we can get into that a little bit later, but I have been keeping an eye on them. And again, it's so low effort and it's just so easy to do. It's like, it's grifting on easy mode, right? And so like when I'm doing this,
well, they're not grifters because they're hardworking, like there's, and we've got David Wilcock is now like telling people like, oh, I haven't had a vacation in 3 years and thank you all because I made enough money to go on vacation. And
too
like
many banana sandwiches.
It's so stupid though. Like, wait a minute, you're living in a $2 million house and you work for 3 or 4 hours once a week, making a live stream in which people pay you thousands of dollars during the live stream and you're crying poor. And so I found the place where he's going. It's $650 a night for the hotel he's going to be staying in for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. So, and then he's got to get another hotel because the first hotel doesn't have great internet. So he's going to pay for a second hotel just to have great internet. The guy's going to spend like 10 grand on a vacation. He's crying poor while living in a $2 million house and talking about, oh, I have 3 months worth of grass-fed bison ribeye steaks in my freezer. Like that's like $40,000. We did the math.
That motherfucker. So I'm blocked by him on Twitter because
he's threatening to sue me, and he said I got him swatted. We got the body cam footage. Oh, and by the way, I just want to put on the record, like I've been getting a couple of messages like, oh, David Wilcock threatened Stephen Cambion and shut him up. No, for the bunch of weeks, it's just the same. He keeps repeating the same stuff, and I don't want to cover it. I'm going to cover him soon, though. We have some new information that's great about his shady aerospace company.
There was someone that came on a space, I think last year, that used to party with Wilcock and his wife and start spilling the beans about like what went on. Like supposedly Corey Good like was just smoking weed all the time. Like he was, he was like super stoned, didn't know what he was doing. Wilcock was just kind of into some weird things, right? And he's like, I think he's being blackmailed by something he did or was done.
Oh, a lot of people have said that the reason that David Wilcock can't divorce himself from Corey Good is because Corey Good has some kind of dirt on him, big dirt. And he just
some
says,
sort of
"Hey, David
in
Wilcock,
the
you
bedroom
want to work my disclosure conference? No, I'm dropping them videos, bitch." You know.
Well, so, but that motherfucker. So, like, I'm blocked by him and Doty, right? One of the only few people that actually blocked me on Twitter. So, just to show you the company they keep. But Wilcock, I got into when I was 19, right? And it really, like, it really just, I don't know, like, you know, got me into all of this stuff, right? And at first I was like, man, this guy, he knows what he's talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So for 2 years, I'm following this guy. And
No,
slowly
listen,
to
he's
realize,
a very convincing,
yeah,
charismatic, I'll even give him that, public speaker. He speaks bullshit with such confidence. It's just like that is the definition of a con man, confidence man. He has such confidence, and I've heard the same thing you just told me from 100 people. Like, man,
so,
I really thought he knew what he was talking about. Yeah,
UFO head, and that guy really like once I found out like how that guy got me basically, and like all this shit, like so full of shit. I left this scene for years. I didn't want
but by then you probably brought a couple of books and some other shit from
books, fucking lectures. I mean, I thought again, this guy was the truth. And like some of those lectures, he's coked out of his mind. Like he's got bags under his eyes, and he's like, you know, like rubbing his nose. Like
we did a whole video of just him sniffing from his live streams. We put it all together, and he's like.
I have a whole script written about that guy called Cosmic Consciousness, where it just follows like the rise and fall of this UFO grifter. You know,
that sounds like a good comic book. Like, I would buy that comic book. I would buy that comic book. But you got to put in this guy, Stephen Campion, who showed everybody that like his $1 million airplane hangar is right now storing garbage dumpsters from a garbage company. That's their only income.
It's kind of a sad story though. Like he lost all
I
his money,
I think here's what I really think. I really think, and I freely admit this is my pure speculation, but I've investigated him and his company more than anybody, I think, and I know more about it. I think that he gave a lot of money to that company. Yeah, but your video just dropped for some reason.
Give me 1 second. I just have to log out and come back in, I think.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
Oh, well, we lost him. I was talking about Wilcock, and I really think that karma has had its way. In other words, you know, David Wilcock made a lot of money lying and, in my opinion, conning people with fake information. And I think that maybe, just maybe, this aerospace company convinced him that he was going to be the father of anti-gravity and free energy. All he had to do was, you know, invest lots of money. And I've heard various figures that he may have given Stavati Aerospace millions of dollars. And so if that's the case, that's very sad. We want to take a moment to thank Rotary Motion for being a kind and generous person. He says, this is a £2 super chat. He says, grift on easy mode. Yeah, I mean, what else are they going to do? I don't see them as hardworking people, right? And here we go. Thank you, Rotary Motion, for helping us to praise the cash. Praise the cash. So far, he hasn't rejoined, so I don't know if he's having problems with his internet. We'll take some comments and questions from the live chat. GG out. Galactic Alliance, yes. Why was that the sticking point? Strange guest, I have no idea who you are. It's estimate of the situation, yes. I think you're talking about the guest. Did he fade to black as a homage to Jimmy Church? The Dark Alliance strikes again. No, it would be the Alliance, because remember, I'm the head of the Dark Alliance, so it's the good guys, the Alliance, that are attacking our stream. Science Evidence in Fridge says, Wilcock is like Columbus. He discovered a continent, Pangaea. Yeah, did you hear that stream? He meant Pangea, but he kept saying Pangaea, Pangaea. Above the clouds, Dark Alliance for sure. Why is he gone now? I don't know. I think he was having a problem with his internet or his webcam, and he's supposed to be rejoining us shortly. Chrysler TV is here. Says, how have you been doing? I've been so busy at Chrysler, building a new cabin, and I'm really busy with that. For those unaware too, I'm very happy about this part though. I have this cabin in the mountains, and it gets so cold there that you really got to have plenty of firewood. So I've been busy doing that. And for the first time ever since I've had this cabin, I am way ahead of the game. Okay, Estimate is back. Welcome.
Hey, yeah, sorry, I was streaming through another camera. And
we got to get you. I'm going to send you a couple of things. I'm going to need your address. I'm going to send you like a better internet router and a watch. Right? For those unaware, new guests always make me nervous because you don't know. Believe it or not, I've had a few guests that are like, sure, I'll be there. And then they just don't show up. And I'm on live, like waiting for them. And then eventually we figure out they're not going to make it. So new guests always make me nervous. And you just did. It's 9 o'clock and he sends me a message. It's like, I'll be there in about 10 minutes. Like, dude, you knew it was 9 o'clock for like 7 days now, dude. Like, what? No,
I came straight from work and I was trying to set up OBS and stream through another camera because I was trying to be fancy and I realized I'm an idiot. I can't do these things.
No, just do the browser based. Oh, so I was saying in your absence that I really think that Wilcock gave millions of dollars to the Stavati people who have been running a company for like 30 years and have never produced a single product. But they keep getting people to invest in their company to the tune of millions. There's another investor named Dimitri. I don't recall his last name, but we showed the court documents. He gave Stavati $1 million and he never got it. And he was supposed to get back $5 million. That should be your first like clue that this is a shady company. Nobody says, sure, give us $1 million. We'll give you back 5 in 2 years.
That's a con. That's a straight up con.
So they sued Stavati and called it a Ponzi scheme and an investment scam. And every week, David Wilcock is saying that they're getting more investors. But I'm here to tell you, the first thing an investor does is look up the company. If they're being sued for being a Ponzi scheme and an investment scam, allegedly, according to the court documents, nobody's investing in that company. So, but hey, you know, he's going to be the father of free energy.
I don't understand how he still has loyal followers, though. Like, it blows my mind that he's been doing
it's like that George Carlin thing. No matter how dumb that you think David Wilcock's followers are, they're even dumber than that. They're even dumber. I'm getting hate mail. I got a bunch of hate mail from those people, some of them, saying, how dare you attack David Wilcock? Like, oh, telling the truth when he's lying to you is an attack now? You know, like it's crazy. And then one of his crazy followers, this Tarotina lady, she falsely copyright claimed my channel. And then she came in the live chat and threatened us and all this stuff. So that was a whole thing. They're crazy people. Like, think about how many people, like, how dumb do you have to be to listen to this guy talk about mass arrests for like the 27th time? You know, he's been doing that since like the year 2000. Oh, mass arrests are coming any day now. And then they never happen.
Was when he called somebody and he pretended that that somebody was after him and he was fake crying on the phone. And then
with Kerry Cassidy.
He's like, oh, by the way, I have a newsletter or whatever coming out in a couple of days. Check out for that stuff for insider information.
Because he was selling something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's when Ninja. Oh no, I remember this. That's when ninja assassins from like the Golden Dragon Society were breaking into his house to murder him because his information was so deadly to them, or some stupid
shit like that. Yeah, I just, between him and Doty, I'm just.
Why did Doty block you? That's interesting.
Well, Doty, I started really brushing up on the Paul Bennewitz saga. And Greg Bishop has a great book called Project Beta, which I'm sure a lot of people know.
I have that. I've read it. Yeah.
Great book. And so Doty came on the Twitter scene and started hosting spaces. And I'm like, this is weird, right? Like, I didn't know him that well.
Listen, what's weird about a known, admitted, paid government disinformation agent holding spaces and being worshipped in the UFO community. What's weird about that?
Yeah.
It
was
so
infuriating. It
Yeah.
was fucking I felt like, you know, like he was insulting our intelligence, but like people were taking him seriously. And then I found his whole history with Project Serpo, and like how he basically Stephen Broadbent and Ryan Dubé and a bunch of other people from, it was like, I think, Open Mind forums, Above Top Secret forums.
Yeah, they proved it came. Yeah, they proved that it came from his home IP address, all that stuff.
And it was like a counter intel op run by the community on an intel agent. But he was, and like the thing about Serpo is Serpo had a lot of cutting edge research from what I understand at the time. So he was siphoning it from somebody. So it was a much bigger operation than just.
I thought he was siphoning it from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because it's basically
he was also siphoning it from Put Off and Kit Green, because he was on those email chains discussing that at the time. And Kit Green was even like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here that's like that, you know, scientifically holds some water, but it smells like bullshit. So to me, that says Kit Green was unaware that Doty was siphoning whatever research they had going on and using it for his stuff, then peddling it to the UFO community, right? And I
interviewed him one time. I was writing a book about counter intel, I never finished the book. I was going to write this book that was about counter intel and the sort of CIA infiltration and intelligence infiltration into the UFO community. Because if you think about it, we've got Anjali. She was former information warfare specialist for the Defense Intelligence Agency. We've got Doty, former Air Force Office of Special Investigation, admitted to running disinformation campaigns on UFO community members. We've got John Ramirez from the CIA. We've got somebody from the FBI. We've got Lou Elizondo. We've got David Grush from Air Force Intelligence. There's all these intelligence people infiltrating the UFO community. So I got this source that told me all this crazy stuff about Doty, and I was a single source. So my only choice was to interview him to see if I could get him to confirm or deny some of the stuff this source was telling me. And one of the things was that his uncle and his father were both involved in UFOs for the United States government. His uncle worked on Blue Book.
Yes.
And his father did some kind of other UFO investigations for the Air Force, I believe. So I interviewed him, and I walked away from that interview with one distinct impression of Doty. And that was that Doty enjoys fucking with people in the UFO community. Yes. He told me in the interview, it's still on our channel here, people, it's one of the most viewed videos. He made a game of feeding Linda Moulton Howe like the most ridiculous shit that he could think of to see if she would run with it. And every single time she ran with it.
Put yourself in her shoes. He would bring her into almost like a skip setting in an airport
briefing
base.
room.
With a two-way mirror. So people would actually be looking at her going through these documents. She's unaware that she's being looked at. She thinks she's getting the goods, and they're just creeping on her the whole time to see her reaction. Like, I mean, this is just fuckery on a level that, like, I don't know if I'd stand a chance, honestly, with something like that. So, I mean,
but my real impression is that he gets like a sick, perverse thrill out of like messing with people in the UFO community. And if you think about it, so much UFO mythology came from him. Dulcie Base, that's all from the Benowitz case. Serpo, a lot of people say that he wrote or had something to do with those MJ-12 documents. You know, there's a multitude of things that all came from him. And the aviary, the whole idea that Area 51 is housing aliens and alien technology. A lot of that is rooted in Doty and this aviary.
Well, he would take things. So like the whole Dulce thing came, I think, from a woman named Myra Hansen, who Benowitz was trying to, she had some sort of experience, and he's trying to investigate like her experience, but it was weird shit. Like he would bring over, I forget the name of the hypnotic, the person who did the hypnotic regression, but like the guy would come in, his first name was Leo, I believe, and she'd be in a car all wrapped in tinfoil, and Benowitz is like, this is the only way we can do it. And then they'd go through the encounter. So like,
her wrapped in tinfoil?
Yes. Well, with the car wrapped in tin, because Benowitz was gone. before Doty ever touched
He
him.
was
He was
shit
gone.
crazy. Yeah.
And like he took advantage of that, but like he just siphons these things off and then like passes it off as his own. And the reason he blocked me was because he came and started reintroducing Serpo again and a bunch of other stuff. So I started, I brushed up on the whole Serpo era in 2005 and found out about Tacticus Monroe, which was one of the monikers used, but I think that was Stephen Broadbent at the time, who basically, found out that this guy was the one behind, sending these documents to people and adopting monikers. There was like 2 or 3 officers that he used, right? That
Yeah, he was essentially
anonymous #1.
He was using he was essentially using SOC accounts, but somebody traced that all the IP numbers were his home computer based
so I
on
asked
email
him about that.
metadata.
I kept asking him about that in Tacticus Monroe, and every time I confronted him, and it was like kind of like a buildup over a couple of months, he would lie. At first, Tacticus Monroe was some guy sending him porn, that he didn't want to watch or whatever. Then the next time it's somebody else. And I recorded all of these and I caught him in a space once. And I was like, enough is enough. I played it all back for him. I cornered him. Frankly,
I asked him about the IP stuff. And, I warned him. I said, I've looked at it all, Mr. Doty, and I have a background in computer science. And I think that these people nailed you. All of this Serpo came from your
100%.
home computer. He just denied it. He said, no, absolutely
he tells you
not.
to watch a conference or something from 2006 or whatever. And it's like whatever, you know what I mean? But like he's on here doing it again. And like I don't know if you like missed the most recent episode. He brought a quote unquote a whistleblower into a space who ended up being
the guy from jail. Yeah, the guy from jail.
Doty comes on and says like, hey, I had a briefing about this guy 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm vouching for him.
And then he finds out he's in jail and he just fucking leaves. It's a joke, man. And it's also why, like, I'm a little over passionate, I think, when it comes to the UFO topic. And at one point, I told myself I'm just going to channel it into estimate. And it's like, this is what I think happened. And this is kind of what I want to present. And that's why, like, as far as being historically accurate, I want to be able to present something that, like, at least, if you think this is all bullshit, at least you ask the question, like, well, what did really happen? Why were these people so scared? Or why were they so paranoid, right? And then you get into the Cold War, the relationship with Russia.
I think that you thread the needle very well.
Thank you. I tried.
It's not like, if you read these comics, friends, it's not like he's like, it's definitely aliens. He explores the Cold War phenomenon and the fear of adversarial technology and technological jumps and all of that stuff. And it comes together really nice. And it kind of reads like a spy novel, but I kind of like it that way.
And I love that. I love hearing that because I know like you're pretty harsh, right, on the whole topic, right? And like everyone's got their points of view and everyone's got their reasons for doing that. But like at the end of the day, I just want to present the mystery. And at least like if you don't believe it, maybe you can enjoy it. But like hopefully by the end of it, you ask a question like, well, all these people are real. There's, a bunch of military officers in there. Plus we focus on Project Sign. It's like, maybe you might go down the rabbit hole and maybe, maybe you might prove this whole thing was bullshit, or maybe you might kind of start asking the question again. Cause I think a lot of people get lost in just kind of this hero worship a lot. And it's like, it's not why I came to this topic. It's not really why I stay in this topic. It's more about like enjoying the mystery and asking the question and, possibly finding the answer. Cause we like to think we're Fox Mulder, but we're really not, but at least, give the illusion of
what I hate? I hate when somebody says, well, what about this case, Stephen? And I say, well, I haven't really researched it thoroughly, but I'll put it on my list. I hate when I like do a full court press and then at the end of it, I still don't know what really happened.
It happens a lot.
Like you get into that impasse. Like either these witnesses are crazy or full of shit, or they saw something really extraordinary. I can't explain it,
Well, that's why I love this time period so much, is because there are so many pilot reports, people from the military that experienced, certain things. And like you even have the case, a lot of people don't know this case, but this is, I believe, incident number 79 in Project Blue Book, where on 3 separate occasions, they were releasing Pybal balloons, to observe to record certain things in the atmosphere or whatever. So it was a trained observer watching it through a theodolite. this guy before Kenneth Arnold, and this was March 47 to April 47, 3 separate occasions sees a silver disc show up through instrumentation, reports it to a superior, says nothing about it. I believe Kevin Randall followed up with him in the 80s. The guy didn't even know he had a file in Project Blue Book at all, right? But the reason why I like that case is because it predates Kenneth Arnold and the flying saucer thing. And it's just like, it's one of those weird things where maybe I don't know, maybe he saw a bird and didn't know what he saw, right? But from the other point of view, like he was looking through instrumentation, he's a trained observer. It makes you ask the question, right? And it's interesting.
Yeah, it's compelling. That's a compelling case.
Compelling is the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a trained observer. He should know what a weather balloon looks like. Right?
That was a job, releasing weather balloons, you know? So it's like
he still thought it was a saucer.
Yeah, and he saw it through a theodolite on 3 separate times. So like cases like that, I love because it's like it's compelling, it's interesting, and it's just again that feeling of like, well, what is that really? You know what I mean? Because you can say after Kenneth Arnold, everybody was seeing flying saucers because that was in the vernacular, but this happened before, a few months before. So it's like it's just like an interesting thing where it's like, oh, that's fucking cool, man. Like, you know, I'm
going to share some of your artwork while we're talking here.
Thank you. So this is Ezekiel Anastasia. He's our main artist. Me and him both color the issues. So I can take some of the credit for the coloring, which takes a long time. But
you know what I love about comic books is that there's professional coloring book people.
Yeah, dude, it's hard.
Not to take anything away from it, because I tried to do that once. You know, one of my friends, I used to, in Philly, I lived right by this comic book shop, and they always had these events, and there was independent artists and stuff there. And I was talking to one of them, and I go, you know, I can't draw to save my life, but like coloring is something I could probably do. And he gave me some samples. I was terrible at it. I was terrible.
It's therapeutic.
I busted balls. Yeah, but it is like being a kid again. Like, you gotta get it in the lines, shade it right. You gotta. It's much more difficult than one would imagine. I assume, because I failed miserably at it. Right? I have no.
This one took me like 4 days. You know what I mean, to get the colors right. So it's like it's therapeutic but frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, and this is a case. Which case is this? This is
Flight 105. So this
Flight
is
105.
EJ Smith. So this happened, and I love this case too because this guy, the Captain Smith, was dogging publicly on Kenneth Arnold. Basically, like, you know, I'll believe it when I see it, but like the guy probably saw a reflection on his instrument panel or whatever. Like, no big deal. And so his famous last words when he departed on this flight were, "I'll believe it when I see it." And I believe like 20 minutes into the flight or so, they see like 6 or 7 flying saucers, which are corroborated by the co-pilot, the stewardess, and then I believe also one of the passengers on the plane as well. And he came down, and like Kenneth Arnold gets a lot of credit for like lighting the fire. This was actually the case that, like, once this case hit the headlines, that was it. It was saucer month. For the
then
next
everybody was seeing flying saucers after this.
But the fact that he was dogging on Kenneth Arnold and, you know, like publicly saying that this guy is probably full of shit, and then has his own sighting and reports it over, which is very interesting. I believe it was in not the same area, but it was close to the area where Kenneth had his sighting. I could be wrong about that. I have to double check. But again, it's just one of those things where it's like you have somebody who's like, yeah, I don't believe this. This is horse shit. Goes out, is flying an airliner, has his own sighting corroborated by the people on the plane, comes down and is like, yo, I saw it. I don't know what to tell you, you know? And I believe it was like 7 to 8 flying saucers at the time. So that to me is compelling. It's interesting. And to be able to like visualize that, I think was really awesome. Right, because I can just see it in a movie scene, you know, and that's ultimately what I want this to be. Is like kind of like if you watch the story, the panels go by, it should be like you're watching a movie.
Yeah, and that's funny because Chrysler just asked, "Have you ever looked into doing motion comics?"
I have. They're a little hard. So I'll present something. I don't know if you saw. Oh, you did, Steven, because I think you shared it. I do a lot of video work, and that's kind of where I'm at now. Motion comics just take so much time, and it's really, really difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw this on your Twitter.
We have credible sightings now in the United States, Canada,
This is well done
England,
too.
Hungary,
He's the other half.
Finland,
That's
Sweden, Guam,
John
and
Joyce.
Japan. Not to mention unconfirmed reports elsewhere. No sound, extreme maneuverability, high rate of climb, hypersonic velocity, no apparent means of propulsion, no heat signatures of any kind, and shaped like discs. Flying saucers.
Yeah, that's very well done.
Thank you. That's I've always wanted to
you're giving guys disclosure boners worldwide now. Look at this. This is a,
you know, I
that's
don't
a
think people
disclosure
really know
boner
about
right
this
there.
stuff. You know, like we're still like really small.
I don't know. I would think that, well, you know, there's levels. There's some people that just like, oh, there's a UFO documentary on Netflix, I'll watch it. They're not deep in, I guess to find you or even me, you got to be pretty deep in the weeds here.
Yeah. You got to be a really UFO head.
Yeah. Yeah. But isn't it funny though? Like I see some of these people that are just in spaces for like 12 hours a day talking about aliens and UFOs. So there's some people that are just like, that's all they do. Yeah.
It's addicting. I can't even fault them for it because spaces can get very addicting because, you know, like you said, this is such a niche topic, even though like people like will be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. But like to really talk about it, like,
like you're talking to your family about any of this shit. There's like nut job,
but in
you know?
spaces, you get a chance.
So it's all nut jobs like you. So you go off again. No, but I do like that gathering of people that like know what the hell I'm talking. You know, like if I start talking about different UFO crash cases, they're at least generally familiar or have heard of that case. Or, you know, try that with your family or your neighbors, and they just look at you like, okay, weirdo, you know?
And this is a hot take. My favorite spaces are the ones where like you have conflicting opinions about a certain case.
Me too. But the problem is it seems to be a lot of echo chambers.
Yeah,
on both sides, because there's sometimes the skeptics run a spaces and none of the true believers want to come in and argue with them.
Oh, UFO Shane space?
I like UFO Shane though. He's okay.
He's cool. I like him.
He's funny. I like how, did you see? He's like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to run this grift. And he's doing a GoFundMe to build like some kind of UFO observer deck in his backyard, and it's going to have lasers and shit. He's going to try to call down the aliens. He got a couple. I think he got a couple $1,000. People donated. They wanted to do it.
Shane,
he's like, I'm running my grifts, right?
Shane, if you don't give that money back, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, but some of those true believer spaces, I hop in them and I just listen for a little bit, and then I just can't. When people start talking about their past lives and their superpowers, I just zone out, you know. But you're right. What I like it when there's especially if they're respectful of each other's opinions, and they're just kind of barbing back and forth about different stuff, you know. But that's pretty rare.
Lasts for so long. It's again, this topic is just so like people get so passionate about it. If you're on one side of the fence or the other, it's like it's hard because the conversations will start out and sometimes they'll just devolve into like, well, fuck you, you know. And sometimes that's fun to listen to too, but you don't really get too much out of that, right? Because
people like the drama,
yeah. Well, like
I don't know.
It's like one of those things where it's like if I believe in a case, right? Or if I have a question about a case, and I'm sorry if I'm cutting you off. There's like a 3-second lag.
There's a little bit of delay. Yeah, we should tell the audience that because I get comments later like, "You're cutting him off. Stop cutting him off."
I don't mean to do that at all.
Normally, it's me that gets because if there's a delay, sometimes it gets like, you know, no worries.
But like if there's like a real, you know, if there's a case you're really interested in, and you know, someone comes out with definitive proof that like, you know what, this is like MH370, for instance. This is not real, right? I mean, I was interested in that case for a while, but like once it's definitive that it's not real, like, okay, you move on. Like you don't have to waste any more time with that. Like, would you rather waste
and I like that
years thinking about it, you know?
Yeah, I like that. And that's why I have a problem with people that are so nasty to skeptics or debunkers, you know, like, you know, at some point you have to say, do you just want to live in a delusional fairy tale world where balloons are alien spaceships, or do you want to know this was really just balloons and move on to another case? Like, it doesn't make sense to be so nasty to people that are telling you the truth. But they have that fantasy world that they live in, that they want the aliens to be real. And it's so, important to them that they hate the people that are showing them it's fake,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little
And you know
sad.
what? I feel that way too sometimes, where it's like, oh, fuck, like I really don't want this person to be right, but like if they're right, they're right. There's nothing you can do about it. And as someone that like, I'm not going to call myself a researcher. I'm definitely not a ufologist by any means, but I do like
Oh,
to.
I beg to differ based on your work, but okay. No, you have a very vast knowledge set of the whole history of this thing and everything. Bad news, you're a researcher. Yeah.
Shit. Yeah.
And I have a question from High Speed Chase, who's a musician, I guess, looking for an artist. Does this gentleman do great album art, or know somebody who does? I'm
Well,
surprised.
I do.
Yeah. Well, wait, we got to thank him for praising the cash.
I do have two
Okay.
artists, but we are very busy. So it's you can always reach out and DM, and like I try to help people every chance I get. Like I do,
Chrysler says you're more of a ufologist than some of these other people.
Actually, we're no longer friends. Okay.
Chrysler's awesome. She busted that MH370 so bad, and I felt sorry for her because she came into this thing not really understanding like how crazy some people into this stuff are, like how divorced from reality they are. Like Chrysler thought, I'll just show them it's fake and everybody will know it's fake. And then she does all this work. She recreates the thing. She shows it's totally fake. And then people are like really, really vicious and nasty to her.
And what? It's like, to be vicious and nasty, someone like Chris Lee, like I hit up a couple times to help me with 3D work, right? Like she didn't take any money whatsoever. She did a couple things for me. She also went on a call with me and walked me through a program. I think it was Marvelous Designer at the time, and told me
how to
like,
use it. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like, this is awesome. Like I didn't ask for that. I asked for like, hey, do you know, like, I was naive. I hope that's not about me asking you for help.
No, she was naive about how crazy some of these people are. But
it can get, yeah.
I just look at like Ashton Forbes and I go like, what the hell, dude? Like you really live in a delusional fantasy world, and then the free energy thing on top of it. And by the way, I have been so far down the free energy rabbit hole that as soon as he started that, I knew right away where he was getting the so-called device from and that it was 100% fake. Like I knew it. And then we go check it out and we find out, oh, this person put the plans for it in the public domain like 22 years ago. Wow. And wouldn't you know it, nobody's been able to make a working device, but Ashton Forbes is going to make a working device and sell it to you.
Look, I didn't even follow
stupid.
I didn't follow it that far, man. After that, I was just like, you know what? I let people believe what they want to believe. Let people do what they want to do. I'm just going to focus on my work, right? And I just want to present, again, my point of view through my work. And like, you know what? Honestly, like there's, after Corey Good and David Wilcock, I'm just like, people are going to do what they do, right? The best thing I can do is like present something that's hopefully the antithesis of that, right? And that's all you really can do, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I have sympathy and empathy for those people because a lot of people don't know this, but there was a point in my life where I would be one of the people attacking the people or arguing with them, trying to poke holes in their debunks or whatever, but it's sad how some people like Anjali is a perfect example. Like we investigate her, we blow her whole story to shit. It's total. Her whole original story is fake. I get nasty messages from people like, why'd you have to attack her, Steven? You ruined it. I loved her story and you ruined it. Like, I'm sorry, I told you the truth. Like, sorry, not sorry. It's stupid.
Yeah, she's an interesting case too. I don't even know what to think about that. I mean, it's like, it's just weird. It's weird.
It's weird that even after her story gets completely busted as fake, she goes on Gaia TV and tells it again like it didn't get busted as fake. And she's in spaces still talking about the purple aliens that she met inside the tunnel. And I wanted.
You know what Dodie said about her and Gaia? And it's like, he was like, she was thoroughly vetted by Gaia. So now there's like this inside joke in spaces like you're not legit unless you're thoroughly vetted by Gaia.
Yeah, they thoroughly vetted Corey Good, who spent 5 years telling us about his secret
right, yeah.
space adventures too. And then I love those depositions. Like, you know,
no, it's weird because I was making memes at one point about Gaia and Wilcock and all that stuff. You know, those people from Gaia found my LinkedIn and started following me. And that's when I was like, yeah, I'm good. You know what? I'll shut it off, whatever. I don't want to do it.
You don't want to get sued by a multi-million-dollar company. Yeah. Yeah, they're no fans of either of those two clowns, though. They're suing them both. So they're both going to have to do depositions soon in the Gaia case where they're being sued for defamation and slander and all kinds of shit. So that's going to be interesting. I hope to get those depositions too, because, you know, like the Corey Good depositions, I had a few weeks before anybody else had them. And I was like blown away. I'm like, oh my God, wait till people hear this shit, you know?
That's a gold mine.
Yeah.
That's a gold mine.
I'm listening to it going, oh my God, I couldn't do anything but listen to it for like 2 days straight. And like, I was just in shock. Mostly I was in shock at the fact that he was so dumb that he thought that these public depositions would just get marked confidential and nobody would ever see them. So the cool part about that whole story with those depositions is that Corey Good thought he could say all that stuff and nobody would ever hear it. Do you know what I mean? So he just...
I see. Okay.
He thought nobody would ever hear him say that he made the stories up, that he'd never been to space, never been to Mars, you know, and I love juxtaposing them, you know, like take the deposition where the lawyers asked him, you ever been to Mars? And he's like, no, never said that. And then we flip to a live event where he's talking about going to Mars and building a Mars base, you know?
I remember seeing them once on a conference and it's been taken down, but like it was Wilcock and Corey Good. And it's so funny, like talking more about them than anything else, but like Wilcock was getting visibly frustrated because Corey Good was so fucking stoned out of his mind. And he's like, so they took you on this planet, right? And they did, you know, like trying to lead him into every answer. And Corey just like,
he's zoned out.
Yeah, man.
And he says, like every 2 seconds. So that's a stall tactic from a liar that's trying to make something up on the fly. So they took me into a room, and if you listen to Corey Good, and he still does it to this day, but it's interesting. His latest live streams, he used to get like tens of thousands of live viewers, I think, at one point, and now he's down to like 200 live viewers for some of his live streams.
I'm surprised that he still does live streams after that deposition. Basically, like he admits that's all entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm going to share my screen here. This is cool.
Air Force radar
oh, so this is
watching for strange flying
stuff I've done in Unreal Engine.
Sections of the country.
Nice.
The Air Force alerted its radar installations after sightings of unidentified flying objects were reported in the Gulf of Mexico, Texas, and the Missile Test Center in New Mexico and in other areas of the country.
This is like the Washington, D.C. event?
Yeah, I was messing around with the engine, just trying to do stuff with it, and it's just like, it's a little slow, but it's a little eerie, and like I think encompasses the vibe that I'm trying to go for, like any of my work.
Yeah.
Officers investigating the report found impressions into Earth followed funding to a landing gear and footsteps where the incident was alleged.
Oh, and they jump off.
And that's it, yeah. It's like little experiments like that, you know, like to kind of, because again, this topic is just treated so poorly in media, and I just don't understand why people don't get it. You know, it's like, it's, at least in my point of view, it's not that hard. You know, it's all about the mystery. It's all about like what you don't know. But every film or every piece of media is like trying to explain like everything to you. You know what I mean? And like
what I love about the media is like, every time they interview somebody about UFOs, they play proven fake UFO videos in the background. You know what I mean? It's like, did you not do 2 minutes of research to find out that that's fake? That's not a real UFO. It's whatever it is, you know? But
I see the crop circle one making the rounds still, you know? It's like, come on, dude.
Yeah, that was early digital technology used to create that fake, like, oh, look, an orb's making a crop circle. Is that the video you're talking about? Yeah. It's been debunked out the wazoo, and you'll still find people arguing that it's real.
Well, Doty said that Skinny Bob video was real. And I think that's when I was like, you motherfucker, man.
Yeah, I love how, like, you know what was so funny is that somebody was arguing with me about Doty, and I'm like, come on, he's on Gaia TV every other week talking about reptilian aliens. And they didn't believe me. They're like, no, he's not. I'm like, dude, he's on Gaia TV talking about the reptiloids and shit and the Arcanons. Yes, he is. I had to find the clips and post them. And then this person was like, oh, I didn't know he was that. Like,
dude, there was a user named Nora who, like, they were in a Twitter space, and like Doty claimed to have heard one of these aliens make a sound, and Nora asked him to can you recreate the sound? He actually did, and it sounds like, you know, like a goose that's about to die, but he actually vocally recreated the sound, and people started remixing it in songs. So, I mean, there's some good stuff to come out of spaces, you know?
No, that stuff's funny. Yeah, and you see these music videos Simon Fly makes where he just takes clips of the grifters talking and he puts it to music. It's so funny, man.
It's one of these days I'm gonna make a David Wilcock like origin story movie. Like it's.
You were talking about this issue 3, getting back to your work. What is that one going to be about?
Yeah, so issue 3, and the reason why it's taken so long is, like, again, it's like over 120 pages. We thought about splitting it in 2, but we just said fuck it. We'll, you know, give people the 4 that they asked for. So we follow Project Sign from beginning to end, and basically our series starts with the inception of the UFO phenomenon, and this team starts forming within the government because they're trying to investigate what's going on because of all the paranoia and the fact that, like, they think that, you know, this might be Russian technology that's probing
all
them,
the reports. Yeah,
and they're like, what the fuck, you know, like
height of the Cold War.
Yeah, if they can come on our coast like that, they, you know, they can equip their whatever it is that they're using, a flying saucer, with like a nuclear bomb, right? So the paranoia is very real, but like they don't know. They really don't know. You know what I mean? So issue 1 and 2 deals with like Kenneth Arnold and like the initial buildup. Issue 3 is all about that week in July. So it starts July 4th, and from July 4th all the way to like July 14th. Well, maybe like 7 to 10, but there's just sighting after sighting after sighting all across the country, flooding all the channels, the Pentagon channels, the military channels. They're all arguing with each other. They're like, what the fuck? You know, like, this is no longer.
Yeah, and
like
this is where it gets really interesting to me, because I try to place myself in that historical time frame and the people that were tasked with having to deal with this. Like, imagine in the 1950s that they were like, people keep seeing these silver gray elliptical objects and we don't know what it is. People think it's aliens. What if it is? And they're all within the government freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. It's interesting from just that perspective.
So seriously. They took it so seriously because, like, if I looked into drone technology at the time too, we did not have any sort of drone capability to do some of the, like, with the maneuvers that they were describing. In fact, the drones that we did have were previous airframes that we already used, right? So like had wings and
they would make an airplane remote control basically for one reason or another. But they had limited range and they needed a limited range plane to control them.
There was one plane that Northrop Grumman made that, like, you could account for certain flying saucer sightings, and it's because it was like it was reminiscent of the flying wing design over in Germany that they were testing out at that time. But like these people were flooded with reports. Like, it got really serious around this time, issue 3s, because the reports started coming from their own people. So it was no longer a civilian issue. It was now these things seem to be all around our sensitive military bases like White Sands. There's a couple more I can't name off the top of my head, but like they started taking them seriously because now it's a threat. Now it's like, well, our pilots are seeing this. Our people.
Yeah. What if it's Russian? What if it's Russian?
And some of them were reported to be flying a quote unquote pro-Russian trajectory, which was like over Alaska. And they're like, okay, so this is definitely Russian. So like they took this so seriously that they had meeting after meeting about this. And they made this quote unquote estimate of the situation in the beginning. They sent it to Air Material Command and Wright-Patterson for like a second opinion. They're like, yeah, no, this lines up. And in the description, it's metallic, you know, high rate of climb, et cetera, et cetera. Once they sign off on that, and that's infamously called the Twining Memo, they send over an EEI to their military attaches overseas, which is like called an essential elements of information. And I might be getting some of this wrong, so I apologize. But they sent it overseas to basically any agents they had, like in Europe, to be like, hey, be on the lookout for this. We're looking for anybody that knows anything about this because we think this is Russian utilizing German technology. So they also hunted for the Horton brothers, who were famously built the flying wing or designed the flying wing, because they really thought that this was a mechanical problem that they had on their hands. And I love that shit. It's like, it's so Metal Gear Solid in a sense, where you just have these people in the late 40s, like pulling off like just like these spy thing, like all the spy shit overseas to try to get information, to relay back to home base, to be like, hey, this is, this might be what you're looking for. And so like, our story,
that's fascinating to me. So for a time, then the United States government thought that these things were coming out of Russia, but that they were based on the Nazi technology that the Russians grabbed that the United States did not grab. Because at the end of World War II, they were both trying to grab every piece of tech that they could.
We had paperclip. They had like, I forget the exact name of the operation, but like what they did was like they like literally took, I think overnight, thousands of scientists and their families and shipped them off to parts of Russia, right? Through like, I think these, they had a bunch of, I don't know, they're not highways or train tracks that lead all sorts of different places, but they put them on trains and shipped them to Russia. And they're like, oh man.
Along with the Horton planes?
So the Horton brothers, there was I forget how many months long investigation, but it was called Operation Harass, where they actually got the help from the British intelligence to track down the Horton brothers. And it was like this manhunt to find these guys, right? Because they think that the designs that they were seeing were based off of this. And they thought at a time that Russia had plans to build 1,200 of these things. So they're like, okay, this must be the guy. Yeah. And so
this Horton Brothers flying wing is very interesting. My father was he was a helicopter mechanic and very, very interested in aviation technology. And I learned about this when I was a child. And my father used to say this airplane was 20 or 30 years ahead of every other airplane.
Yes. And the reason was, the
low radar cross section.
Yes.
Was barely visible to radar. And this is in 1938 or something, right? Like, that's crazy. It was a stealth fighter before the stealth fighter. It was
there were initial designs before the 30s. I mean, before the 40s. But like, the reason why it was so deadly is because the fact that like the way it was built, like it wouldn't register on radar, but also the speed. So like, by the time you did catch it, it's too late to launch a response. You're fucked. Right. So it's like kind of like the cool thing of this is, again, why they were so scared, because our Air Force at the time was in really bad shape. Like, we had to do a lot of things to get it up to, snuff. So this was a very real threat. And like, our story really revolves on the fact that like the psychology behind these people having to deal with something like that. And of course, I do, like you said, I kind of thread the line a little bit where it's like, I think something more happened in those years, and we present a very compelling case for that. But we also make sure that it's grounded in its reality that, like, hey, man, these people were just trying to protect the nation. They were trying to find out what this was because they thought that this was an existential technological threat from a foreign nation, not aliens. It's only
they thought it was they thought it was adversarial technology.
But Project Sign did, though, by the end of it. And this is why we're focusing on Sign, because not only is it the first government.
By the end of it, they ruled that out, that it was Russian.
Yes, and they're like, they actually came to the conclusion, right, that this was extraterrestrial, and they sent it up the chain of command, and it got bucked down, and the project got disbanded. A bunch of people, like, their careers were basically never the same. But like, just the idea of going from point A and eliminating everything that could possibly be and being left with only the extraterrestrial hypothesis, I think is like such a compelling fucking story. Because these were our top, like, aero engineering minds at the time. These are our top.
Yeah, these were not just wackadoos that decided that, oh, look, it's aliens. That's why it's compelling to me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I was aware of that of Sign, but then it's so interesting that after Sign, they pivot to Blue Book, which was largely there to just discredit everything.
Yes, well, after Sign, it was Grudge, and then Blue Book.
Blue Book, yeah.
But you saw a schism, though, within the Pentagon start forming, and even within the AMC, where like Cabell, who was instrumental in Sign, found the star, like he found out how sorry of a state Grudge was in, and like infamously had a meltdown, according to Ruppel's book, that these people are always lying to me. They're lying to me. So he helped set up Project Blue Book, which was supposed to take this seriously, but then that also ended up pivoting to, just explaining these things away, right? Where they bring on Hynek, and they, Sanford has that infamous talk in, I believe, 1950. Oh God, was it 52 after the Washington sightings?
I think it was 52. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you start seeing the schism of just attitudes towards this subject, where some people don't take this seriously, and some other people are like, hey, there's something to this. We need to take it more seriously. Right. So that to me is interesting, and that tells a very compelling story.
When I see these videos, this sort of teaser that you made, my first thought when I saw that, selfishly, was like, man, I wish I would have thought of making a film about this, because that would be wouldn't it be a great movie if you were historically accurate?
Yes.
And then but you'd have to do it like you're doing these comics, like thread the needle. Don't tell everybody it's aliens, but go through that whole story of like, oh my God, there's some there's some kind of aircraft that are going over our sensitive airspace, and we don't know what it is, and the whole drama of the government, because certainly I bet you that the government hasn't changed. They're just the same now as they were then. They don't want to admit that they don't know what's in the sky. They're supposed to be protecting our airspace. Yeah.
I think ultimately the answer is they don't know.
I spoke to Colonel Hicks. The object was white and metallic, about 1/4 the size of a full moon, and moved at a steady clip. He watched through binoculars and had an unobstructed view.
This is still rough, by the way.
They tracked it for over half an hour before Captain Mantell used the area to intercept.
Thank you.
B-51s.
Yes, sir. 4 of them. But once the object reached 15,000 feet, 3 of the pilots broke off due to oxygen concerns. Only Captain Mantell maintained pursuit. He reached over 25,000 feet before he lost radio contact and fell into a nosedive some minutes later.
Oh, that's the man that was killed by a UFO, right?
Mantell, yeah. So we're trying to present a case that like this can be a film or a series that takes this seriously, because like we had Blue Book, and like I don't want to talk shit about them, but like they added so much stuff that was so unnecessary. When you just have to stick to like just the history of it, it's weird enough. The people are compelling enough. So we're filming these small scenes because like we want to, again, obviously scale this up to a film.
Looks like a great movie to me that I would love watching.
Yeah,
Amy says, slowing down my comment, I live less than 1 mile from Werner von Braun Center. That's the cool. Ultimate paper guy. Thanks for helping us to praise the cash. Longtime show supporter Amy WC. Yeah, the Werner von Braun and the Operation Paperclip thing was always interesting to me, because the fact that they just whitewashed all of these Nazi scientists and the things they did during the war, but it showed you that I think we were sort of desperate after the war, because we knew that Russia and the Soviet Union were going to be a big threat to us, and we needed to have technological dominance in order to stay ahead of them. Well, so
not only that,
when your nation may be at risk, you're going to bend a few rules. But the Werner von Braun thing always bothered me, because I happen to be Polish, and I know for a fact that he was using Polish slave labor to build those V2s. And I know how the Polish slave labor force was treated.
Well, I did not know that.
Yeah, they used slave labor, man. They got to keep pumping out those V2s because they weren't very accurate, and Hitler wanted to just... Hitler wanted V2s to be always flying at England, and just blow up as much of England as possible. But because it was such new technology and difficult, they had to just employ slave labor to make those.
Ty mówisz po polsku?
Yes.
You don't speak Polish?
No, I barely speak.
I have to be Polish too. Like I didn't know that.
I barely speak Polish. Yeah, I can curse at you really good.
Oh fuck, man! Chill.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that my father was first generation immigrant, and so
Same.
when we were growing up, he was very dead set against us speaking Polish, my brother and I, because he was made, I'm sure he got made fun of for his accent and things. But I sort of regret it now. I used to speak Polish a little bit better because even just to speak to my grandparents, they barely spoke English. You had to speak some Polish, but that was a long time ago. And then I grew up in Philadelphia in Port Richmond, which is the Polish section of the city. People don't really realize that now, but it's more integrated now. But the city used to be like so segregated. Like if you were Italian, you lived in South Philly. If you're Polish, you lived in Port Richmond. Do you know what I mean? So it's still a little bit like that, but not really anymore.
Well, like my dad's first generation, my mom too. And the stories they tell me of the old country, and I've had to I've visited before, but they come from a very different world. You know what I mean? And it is very humbling at one point because I think a lot of us take for granted what we have here, but
sure, yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking for a certain PDF. See if I can maybe.
Yeah, I was just checking, and there's a article from the National Air and Space Museum on wonder weapons and slave labor, and it directly quotes sort of the V2 and that sort of thing. They definitely use slave labor to create these V2 rockets. Yeah, they were assembled in part by forced and slave labor from various Nazi camp systems. So the Jews, the Polish, the Czechoslovakian, whoever was already conquered became a slave labor force to create the wonder weapons for them.
See, that's awful. And it's like a lot of this history too is hidden, we don't talk about it. And I don't know if it's just people just forget or if it's by design, but it was a really fucked up time in the 40s, all the way from the 30s up to the 50s. People don't realize there was a lot of, aside from UFOs, there's a lot of shit that went on that
so these are the kind of scenes that they wanted everybody to forget about Werner von Braun's V2 project. This is how people were treated. Here, sleep outside in the snow, and they were all malnourished and underfed to keep them compliant and weak. It's a sad story, but interesting that the United States government just went, oh, that Nazi stuff, he's not such a bad guy, he's going to get us to the moon. And they just, and there was a lot of, I'm going to do a show. I have a folder full of paperclip scientists and their various war crimes, because I think that would be an interesting show to show all of these scientists, because the United States government just whitewashed them, just changed their whole history.
I would be very interested in that show, just because again, that's not something you hear about at all.
The history is still out there. You can look up these paperclip scientists and see what were they working for the Nazis and what sort of atrocities were they either directly in charge of or participating in. Because it's interesting to see what exactly. It's one thing, it's a matter of depth, right? If you just say oh, these Nazis were really bad people and we just accepted them and changed their history because we would benefit is one thing. But when you go deep and see what some of these people did during the war, it's how the hell did you just say, okay, this is okay,
I think
and in some cases, Werner von Braun would specifically request certain people that he would need for the projects. And, this is guy you got to bring over here. This guy you got to bring over here. And they would get him, grab him and bring him over. And then, of course, they would put a paper clip on their file as they were all being processed to indicate this is one that we need. So we'll whitewash his history. And it
was the fear, too, that if we didn't get them, Russia would get them. Right. So not only we're trying to stay ahead of Russia, but we want to make sure that these people don't fall in Russia's hands at the time. So
same for the technology. There was a huge race at the end of the war to grab as much of this shit as they could possibly grab and ship it over to the, over to the United States so that they could pick it apart. Because, some of the stuff that the Nazis were working on, they were just people talk about, oh, they had alien help. I don't believe that. I just believe that they were incredibly motivated and they're great engineers. You know,
So yeah,
they're just
they were
great
incredible
engineers.
Incredible engineers. So wait, Stephen, I understand that you have a sighting, right, of your own.
Yeah, but it was really, I thought it was much more important than it was. And it sort of took place right near McGuire Air Force Base, like 2 miles from the runway. I was in the woods around McGuire Air Force Base. I saw something I couldn't explain. I was young. And then right after that happened to me, Bob Lazar came out. And I was convinced. I was like, I think I saw one of those flying saucers that Bob Lazar's working on. But then even as a child, I couldn't quite comprehend, like, why would it fly from Area 51 all the way to McGuire Air Force Base? And then McGuire Air Force Base was a very boring base. Like, they were logistics and support. So in other words, they didn't have any sexy technology on McGuire Air Force Base. They didn't even have modern jets. The most modern jets they had when I was a child was F-4 Phantoms. They were trainers for the people to learn how to fly a jet aircraft, right? So it doesn't make sense to me that they would have the crazy technology right at McGuire Air Force Base when everything else over there was like old garbage. It was like a training base. But I still don't know what I saw, but it got me down this rabbit hole, for better or worse. Well,
that's how it starts, right? Everyone, like, I had my own sighting in 2012, and like to this day, I'm like, I have no idea what it was. But like it's that mystery that kind of captures you, like, well, what if? Could it be? And in your case, since it was so close to an Air Force base, like, you can definitely like rationalize that, well, it might have been XYZ or whatnot, but it's still
I told myself years later, after going down so many alien rabbit holes and finding out what liars and scammers so many of these promoters of the alien hypothesis are, I told myself most likely what I saw was some kind of a black test. But then I still can't make that make sense, because why would they be doing like high technology tests at a base that's logistics and support, and their newest aircraft is like an F-4 Phantom from the 70s? Like, this doesn't make sense. But it was 2 miles from like the actual runways at McGuire. And interestingly, there's a case of like years later, there's a case of somebody claiming that an alien got murdered on McGuire Air Force Base, which is crazy.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Like an MP shot and killed an alien. We did a show on that. And I thought,
like a Phil Schneider episode.
Yeah, I'm like, what if that's related, right? And there's this old gentleman that's an Air Force officer. I think his name is George Benson, maybe. I know his first name is George. I'm going to blank on it. And he swears that he went in the morning and they were telling him about the alien that got shot and killed. And first he thought they were talking about like an illegal alien. And they're like, no, not an alien from here, And he swears that they created it up and they flew it to Wright-Patterson. And he seems very credible, but I don't know. I leave that one. That's in my gray basket still. But he lives right over in New Jersey.
The gray basket is the most fun basket.
It is, because you can't just throw it away.
Yeah, exactly.
But I like it when a case is resolved to like most. Okay, this is definitely a fake one, because then, like you said, then I won't waste any more time on this or anything like that. We want to thank Yash, who says, thank you, Polish brothers. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Viewer-supported show. Thanks for helping us to praise the cash. And we got one more. High Speed Chase gifted 5 True Seekers memberships. This is why, if you're not already a True Seeker subscriber, you have to subscribe, because when people gift these memberships, they get randomly given out to people who are subscribers, but not yet True Seekers members. So we thank you, High Speed Chase, as well.
On the topic of like this low effort stuff, I was just thinking of Greer, like how his stuff is so incredibly low effort sometimes, and people like are just all too willing to just give him money, right?
He's made millions. He's proven exactly nothing.
It blows my mind. And it's like with the thing that you saw, right? Like, I actually went out and I ended up like finding people who, were relatives of service members, got actual Air Force uniforms. Maybe they might be like a couple years off or whatever, but like, I put in a lot of care into shooting that and making it.
That looks historically accurate to me. I didn't even think
the uniforms are wrong.
I didn't even think that they may be wrong, but you kept it dark enough that I bet you only like a military historian would be able to tell that detail was a little off.
Oh, I already got comments on Twitter already. Like, it wasn't like this. Blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, well, we had like, we had no money.
Called artistic license, you asshole. That's what you got to say,
But then Bijou, shit like that. And I'm just like, how do you?
It's a cactus. Yeah. It's a cactus.
But how do you,
he's showing people cactuses off in the distance, and it's an interdimensional alien. And like the guy Lions Ground, he's incredible. Like, I don't even know how he found it, but he found the site that they were at. He found the cactus, and you can match it up. It's this cactus.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
No, it's a cactus off in the distance. It's so stupid.
Like, so do you think he convinces himself like every morning to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go bullshit, or does he actually believe this? Because I think at some point you have to, like, I think Doty, for instance, started believing a lot of stuff that he was spewing.
Yeah, I think that there's a mix. A lot of people ask me this question, and I think there's some of these people, they know that it's just a grift and it's all fake, but they're here to get the money. And then there's some people that truly believe it's all true and truly real. And so they think they're doing something good, like sharing this garbage, and it's hard to tell which is which, but either modus operandi is harmful because you're just spreading disinformation, misinformation, and fake shit. And that doesn't advance like solving the mystery at all, does it?
No, I also don't know where the money, like, I wish someone told me like 4 years ago, there's no money in UFOs, like, granted, I'd still
that's
probably
funny though. People say that, but then we can verifiably show that people are making millions of dollars.
Yeah,
like
the big ones.
Corey Good in the depositions is like, yeah, David Wilcock made $1.5 million or something like that from just one course. And the lawyer's like shocked. The lawyer's like, he made $1.5 million. He made $1 million from one course. Yeah, from one course that he sold, and recently
I might have contributed to that.
Recently, David Wilcock was kind of crying and complaining, but it's so funny because he lets things slip. He said something like, 7,026 people bought the books, and the books were like $150, these Michael prophecy books. So, if you just get your calculator out, and he says 7,000 people, right? So 7,000 times, let's just say $150 for the books. That's like, a lot of money, right? Like, that's a lot of money.
Well, according to you, he's living some sort of lavish lifestyle, like it's again, he's such an interesting character. I think he's one of those people that, like his whole biography too, like he's a reincarnation of Edgar Casey, things like that. Like, as a kid, he'd be the type of guy to like trade you like a Ditto for like a Charizard and convince you that like you're getting a good deal, And
you know what he reminds me of? He reminds me, I always use this analogy. There was a kid when we were growing up, and I swear to God, this kid really did this. We're in the playground or something, and he's like, you know what? I got a laser gun, and we're like, great, let's see the laser gun. But he would start making up excuses. Can't show it. It's my dad's, and it's top secret. It's for his
insider information.
At work. Yeah. And like, I'm like, Jesus, that's David Wilcock, right? Just all grown up,
Oh God.
And Wilcock, I think, is one of the people that truly believes, and he's so narcissistic. He thinks he's like the Earth's savior. Did you know he's saying that the government is going to ask him to like be the ambassador to the aliens when the disclosure event happens? He's going to get a job in the Trump White House too. Like, and the alliance is sending him signals.
See, that's what I'm saying. The psychology behind people like that. There's no way he can actually believe that unless he's fucking crazy, right?
Well, he's telling people to take baths in their own piss to get superpowers. Did you know that? We have clips. He's like, yeah, you got to piss in the bathtub, and then because of DNA, and Archangel Michael told me to do this, and then I got telekinetic superpowers from doing it. And then he used his telekinetic superpowers that he got in the piss bath to save Donald Trump from that assassin's bullet. He like went into the astral world and like moved the bullet.
He took the bullet.
Matrix style, like now it'll just hit his ear, like, It's so stupid.
I saw a clip where he was talking about how like he had a dream that he's convinced was real, where he was in some astral realm and he's like beings were towering over him, and he started breaking down crying, and he's like, and they forced me to give them a banana sandwich. And I've
No,
been
they
trying.
made me a banana sandwich.
Oh, they made him a banana sandwich. I've been trying to decode that for like weeks now.
I don't even know what that means. I even went looking
like,
up like what does banana sandwich mean in a sex term, and
he seemed pretty devastated. I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to know.
he's crying. Yeah, and oh man, I can't believe that the guy like threatened to sue me. He said I got him swatted, and then I'm a pretty good researcher, but I didn't know what to do. I was like shocked. I'm like, the fucking guy from Ancient Aliens is saying I got him swatted and he's going to sue me. Like, what the hell? So I called the Boulder County Sheriff's Office and I got a chatty Cathy. Do you know what that is?
No.
That's a bored lady at work. She's just bored as shit. So I call her up and I was trying to explain this. And she's like, the blonde guy from Ancient Aliens or the guy with the big hair? I'm like, no, the blonde guy. And she goes, oh my God, what did he say? You got him swatted. And I go, yeah. So I'm trying to prove whether he got swatted or not. And she's like, well, I'll tell you how to get the body cam footage. And I'm like, there's body cam footage of him getting swatted? And she goes, no, but if an animal control officer went out there, there's body cam. So we got the body cam footage, and it's just like some girl knocks on his door. He's not home. And she puts a business card on his door. He said, I got him swatted like 27 times. He just kept saying, Steven got me swatted. Our friend got us swatted. And none of that happened. And then we got the phone call with the animal control officer, and it was just like hysterical because he starts off the conversation. He's like, well, listen, I'm really, really famous. I'm on Ancient Aliens. I'm on 192 episodes. I have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm really famous.
Sure he does.
And so I have stalkers, it's just hysterical to peel back the layers,
But, so like peeling back the layers of Wilcock is like, it can turn into kind of like a comedy at some point. What really kind of screwed me up was, didn't screw me up, but like really kind of was a punch to the gut was when you go into Doty's history and you realize how much of the lore that's in circulation today comes from that Benoit saga.
I said he's the source of so much UFO mythology,
and you're like
so many things people just believe it all came from Doty.
Yeah,
and whether it's like, true or not,
Once you go down that rabbit hole, you're just like you go back all the infamous cases that you have in the back of your mind. Like he was involved with the with that UFO Cover Up Live documentary that was supposed to have the infamous Solomon Air Force.
Yeah, it's thing. So stupid. The aliens like strawberry ice cream, and he's behind a voice disguiser. The aliens like strawberry ice cream. High Speed Chase, who's been a member for 7 months, says they are all wackadoos, Stephen. Thank you for the great show.
So, some people are wackadoos, some people are misguided, The interesting thing about the UFO Cover Up Live, though, is like the fact that like they were promised footage from Holloman Air Force Base of that landing, and they were strung along. Right, so they kept getting footage of other shit, of lights in the sky from the Air Force through Doty, who I think was like he was masquerading as Falcon at the time, which he's actually not Falcon. What's his name? Harry Rositsky, I believe, was proven to be Falcon, or if you believe Bill Moore. But sorry, tangent. But they were strung along the entire time, and like so they started filming around Holloman Air Force Base, thinking they're going to get this footage eventually, and at the last second they pull back all their footage. And they're like left with nothing. So they still have a documentary. They decided to kind of like, I don't know if it was a recreation at the end or something like that to show the
No, it wasn't a recreation. There was supposed to be like 7 seconds, but it's really bad footage.
That was a bullshit lie by
it looks
Emenegger, I believe, or I forget the name.
Well, somebody analyzed that footage and they proved definitively that it was an airplane in that footage.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like
all of that mythology around that Holloman Air Force Base, there's footage. The government has it, and they've teased that they're going to give it to certain filmmakers. Yeah. All of that, and it's an airplane. It's a misidentified airplane.
You have a straight up AFOSI connection where they're working with these people who are doing this documentary, who I think actually believe that they're going to get the footage, but they're purposely injecting all this shit. And they're being interviewed on camera as, like you said, like they like strawberry ice cream or whatever. So like now they have their own vehicle to kind of like throw in this misinformation or disinformation and then spread it to the masses. And I believe like a lot of people have this like idea that's very nefarious that they're doing this to fuck with the UFO community. Where I think if you read Project Beta, like it's very clear that what they're trying to do is catch Russian intel agents, because Russian intel agents love UFO researchers, because a lot of UFO researchers will see something in the sky, like Benowitz, for example.
And it's a black project. Yeah, he was seeing
it's black
drone,
project, so they'll target
technology.
UFO researchers to get more information. Where the guy thinks he's just reporting a UFO, the Russian's like, "Oh yeah, tell me more, right?" So like, I see why they did it, but at some point, it's like, well, why are you in Twitter Spaces now? Why are you still fucking with the community, right? Are you still
I've done several shows about what I call the alphabet soup infiltration of the UFO community, because like really, let's think about this for a minute. You make comic books, right? Like, what if all of a sudden at comic book conventions there was all these CIA people and intelligence people? Like, that would be a story. Like, what are all these intelligence people doing at our cosplay convention? But in the UFO community, it's just normal. Like, I was blown away when I start researching Anjali, and I'm going through her records, and I go, holy shit, she was an information warfare specialist for the Defense Intelligence Agency, not once, but twice.
Was she for them too?
Yeah, and then she wrote some shitty books that didn't go real well. So then I think those were fiction, and then she decided she saw aliens and was going to write a book about that. But like, she worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency twice, first as directly for them, and then later as a consultant for them. And then suddenly she's in the UFO community talking about seeing aliens inside a tunnel. It's bizarre. And that's John Ramirez guy. That John Ramirez guy, the CIA guy, he's all, oh yeah, the aliens are real. And, wow. It's
like
bizarre.
I said, at this point, like, there was a point where I was trying to like find out the backgrounds of everybody involved and like go through this like rigorous kind of like quote unquote like research phase. But like, the thing with Doty as well, it's like he's such a slow moving target. It's almost like it's as if he's there on purpose. You waste all this time going into the background and the history, and you come out of it really with nothing. It's a dead end at the end of the day. And I feel like a lot of this ends up being a dead end. So it's like, again, like,
it's diminishing returns. I have the same problem. I'm like, people want me to go do this, and I go, I want to do this for the audience, but at some point, like, I'm 12 hours in and I don't know any more now than when I started this. It's so stupid,
Exactly.
But I will say this about Doty. People told me, like, oh, he's really like charming and manipulative. You're gonna like him whether you like it or not. And I did get that from him.
He's like a grandfather.
He's like your cool uncle that's going to tell you cool stories or something.
He cursed me out. No, he cursed me out. I got on his bad side.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that story about him like co-signing that guy that's in prison, that's so-called whistleblower. And by the way, I don't know if you know this, but that dude's like calling chicks on UFO Twitter and getting them to send him money.
No.
In prison, so that he has like money for like ramen noodles and snacks and shit. So the whole thing is like a grift to get money so that he could have snacks. And he's in Twitter Spaces and people are hanging on every word. And Richard Doty said he had a briefing about that guy. And it turns out it's just some bored dude in prison talking to UFO Twitter girls getting snack money. That's so stupid.
I recorded that space too. I recorded especially because he was talking
do you know Area 503? He did the Who's Lou documentary.
Or
of him.
I recognize the username, I think.
Well, he has I think we're going to do a show on that guy. He has all the guy's criminal records, his prison records. It's a laugh. It's a laugh riot.
Insidious shit. Like he got underage girls to like basically like try to do a bank robbery on his behalf. Right, or something like that. And
something like that. Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Take that person seriously at that point, like.
Well, it's just like there's Kerry Cassidy is using that guy that's been in prison for murder for 35 years, and it's so
she's still in the game.
Oh yeah,
she was Project Camelot, right? Like, and she was also involved in Circle stuff with Bill Ryan, I believe.
Yes, and she is Yeah, the guy's name is Mark Richards. He's supposed to be a secret space program insider, but it's so stupid. It's like anybody can look it up and see this guy's been in prison for 35 years. So what is he teleporting out of his jail cell to save Earth and then teleporting back?
Story.
You know, it's so stupid. And she's adamant. Like Kevin Moore from the Kevin Moore Show, like really pushed her. You know, he's like, oh, I found out this. I found out this. Mark Richards been in, you know, prison for 35 years. How could he be doing all these things that you're claiming? And she just got mad and start yelling at him. It's hysterical, right?
Dude, I hope Bill Moore comes out again. Like,
I tried to find him. And what I found out is that the latest information that I could get was that he is a custodian at a high school in Pennsylvania. And I know where.
What?
Yes. He wants nothing to do with UFOs. He won't do any interviews. He won't talk to anybody about his time in UFO land. He just kind of moved on. But wouldn't it be great if somebody could get him to do like a long form interview about everything?
Dude, I would hang on every fucking
I'm
word.
still trying.
Yeah.
I still want to try. Yeah.
I think maybe, maybe he might, now that this is like a hot topic now, maybe he might be keen on doing it. But it's just, he's one of those people that was on the inside of the machine and he got a firsthand look. And like, he gets a lot of blame for it, right? Like, I see why he did what he did. He didn't have to come out and admit to everybody and like basically ruin his career.
But imagine his position. For people that don't know, Bill Moore was a UFO researcher, and people from within the government, including Richard Doty and other intelligence people, basically came to him and said, if you spy on some of the UFO people for us and tell us what they're talking about, what they're up to, what information they have, and share it with us, we'll share the goodies with you. And we'll show you the truth about the aliens. The guy was obsessed, so of course he agreed to that. It's like a Faustian bargain, though. You're making a deal with the devil.
Everything he got was garbage. They gave him a bunch of garbage, unfortunately. But I get the position that he was in, and it's like he didn't have to come out in that conference. Was it 1989, I believe, at MUFON, and say basically,
he got booed off the stage. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. The guy's telling you the truth, and these people are booing him off the stage. It's like you just don't like what he has to say. You know what I mean, right? Like,
and what he was trying to say is that the government is actively disinforming all of us and trying to throw us off of the real trail.
And a lot of the big stories were part of that.
That part does kind of make sense. Like, imagine if the government really does have aliens in some secret hangar or warehouse or alien spaceships. They're going to do counterintelligence operations to prevent people from finding out the truth about that. So, what better way than to first make this thing the subject of mockery? That's why I think like Wilcock and Good and other people are useful idiots. And, on the subject of Corey Good, before Corey Good, I always think that there's something nefarious and governmental involved with Corey Good's story, because before Corey Good came out and made the secret space program like a laughing stock, there was people doing like really great research. Dark Journalist and Walter Bosley and a few other people were doing really great research into the real secret space program that the United States government has. All you have to do is look up X-37B. They got a drone space shuttle that goes up for 2 years at a time, and we're not allowed to know what it's doing up there for 2 years at a time. So when people say there's no secret space program, hell yeah, there is, but it's not Corey Good's blue chicken aliens and time travel and Mars bases, So I've always thought that maybe Good was sent out to be a bobo. Make this whole subject so laughable and so ridiculous that no one will believe anything when it comes to a secret space program. And he did. It's a joke now. Secret space program is a joke. There's blue chickens in that comedy that's on Netflix, right? About the alien.
But that's the thing. I think that I'm not sure. Like, there might be some like pushed in a certain direction, but I do think these people rise up organically. You know what I mean? And it's still, to me, like that psychological factor is fascinating to me. It's like I don't think you necessarily need like an agent to do that. I just think you need to convince someone, whether it's like.
It's called a useful idiot, or the CIA calls that a bobo. They find a bobo. They find
that's the term.
Yeah, they find a good, well-intentioned person that believes in whatever they're trying to do, and then they manipulate them, feed them some information, help them along, maybe give them some resources, financial or otherwise, and they're off to the races, pushing whatever agenda that the CIA wants, And they did that. They did that during the Vietnam War. They did that during Iraq, probably, and Kuwait. So what's to say they wouldn't do it with UFOs?
Well, so I just want to announce to the CIA that estimate of the situation is open for sale. We will gladly, push whatever you want. Just give us some finance.
Really funny.
No,
I thought for a second that you were pissed off at me when I saw it. I'm like, oh, I didn't even remember.
No, do you have the clip? I have it here.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. Yeah,
dude, I love that clip. Like our brand is our quote unquote brand. Like I want to think that it's based on authenticity. So I mean, like, we try really hard to just, again, we don't follow any sort of agenda. We haven't reached out to by a few people, but it's like we've decided to
too late. You've been identified as a CIA asset already. This is a while ago. So I had hair that was that short. Do you think estimate of the situation is CIA? Yeah, I do.
And beyond that,
I just go right back to whatever I was doing. Yeah, he is CIA, definitely. But I told you that the joke is anytime anybody asks me if somebody is CIA, I just say yes. Even if they're asking me, they're like, you work for the CIA, don't you? Yeah.
Dude, I guess I sent that clip to everybody. I thought it was awesome. I was like, oh shit. Like, if people, well, I didn't know it was a joke at the time, but like, I'm like, if people think we're CIA, maybe we're doing a good job. We're on the right track,
No, you know what? Your books are so measured that I would never think that, honestly, because you don't appear to be pushing an agenda. You're just like, isn't this an interesting story? And what happened behind the scenes with these government people? And it's very compelling,
Yeah. I mean, I think any agenda would just be boring, and it'd be really easy to kind of, you might not like issue.
I'm lazy, so
issue 3 kind of.
I might not like
a little bit more UFO stuff in there, but we still try to just thread the needle a little bit.
I'm lazy. I hope that you collect all these to one book eventually.
Yeah. No, so on that
I would pay $100 for them all together. Just put them all in one book. Make them all color too, because that's the other thing. I understand it. So it's like 2 or 3 times as expensive to make them color, right? So some of them are black and white.
The black and white ones are domestic. Color ones we import through a manufacturer. So like we sell the black and white ones to kind of help finance the color a bit. But we did have a Kickstarter earlier in the year, and so we have the first 4 issues. Might actually be 5 now. So people who did contribute to the Kickstarter, they're going to get even more bang for their buck. But like, the idea is there was an option where it's like in a compendium hardcover book, all in color, and like
that would be fun.
Yeah, all the documents.
Can I ask you a silly question, because I don't know how this works? Like, how the hell do you get a comic book printed as an independent person?
So I had no idea. I was printing them domestically.
This is a whole story, right?
Yeah, dude. I was printing them domestically in Queens at one point, and I lost money on every single copy I sent out. Like I just wanted to get it out there, but it was so expensive. And then you start looking into, okay, well, how the fuck is Marvel and DC, like, how do they afford this stuff? So there's a website that actually lets you reverse look up where certain things are manufactured. So DC, Marvel, Image, and a lot of these big brands, they don't tell you they manufactured over in China. And I found one of the manufacturers. Dude, here's also the funny story too. If I'm going to printer here locally, I get an attitude. It's like the copies always come out fucked up, and it's like, oh, your fault, your problem. China, they had me a proof delivered to my doorstep within a week, and as soon as like it was marked delivered, they called me and they're like,
prove that they make it?
No. So a proof. So it's like you had a proof that it's like an early edition of the book where it's like they just slap it together. It's like, is everything okay? Then we can print mass copies. But like as soon as that came to my door, they called me and asked me if everything is okay. And then once I got everything delivered from there, it was on a boat, took 2 months, for probably like 10 times less than it would cost to print here. The quality was better, the color was better. So I just told myself, we're finishing all 4 of them, and then I'm doing it all in that manufacturer at once and having it shipped over, because
Well, that
you get
makes
killed on
sense.
the
Yeah,
shipping
because
cost.
I was curious if like you could do this with like Amazon print on demand or
No way.
something, but I don't think they'd want to do that much pictures in color. You could do a book, but not.
It's shitty too. Like I really want to make sure that people, when they, they have this, they can give it to their friends and not be embarrassed, or like, give it to their kids even and be like, yo, this is really cool, so qualities are
Yeah,
really big.
I was surprised with the quality. Like I guess I had
A lot of people
don't take
are.
this the wrong way, but I had low expectations after the Corey Good disclosure joke comic that he made people wait like 5 years for, and then it was like shitty. It was so shitty. It was like, this doesn't even look like somebody drew it. And then I found out that somebody showed that like he just took still images from videos and then he like put a filter on it.
Low effort
with
bullshit
Photoshop.
that sells.
Yeah.
And what sucks too is we actually did send a proof, or like we applied, or whatever you want to call it, to a certain publisher, a big publisher in the comic book stuff, and they sent back an email. They're like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. 6 months later, they came out with their own UFO series based in 1947. Isn't that fucking dirty?
Who did this? Who did this?
Starts with dark and ends with an animal that runs on 4 legs.
I don't know.
Horse.
Dark Horse.
Yeah, which
That's
was really
shitty.
It's shitty because they're like the indie label too, and it's like, oh, so when John and I saw that, we're like, yeah, but you know what? We trust our research and like our vision.
Ours is better. Yeah, theirs is low effort probably.
Ours is chess, theirs is checkers. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's room for both, but I was just very disappointed in how all that was handled. And it is what it is. And it's like, we're very small. We don't have, like, if you see, like, we don't really get retweeted that much. Like, we don't. I try not to engage in the politics on UFO Twitter anymore because that just leads to disaster. But we're very small.
Well, to be very honest, as a small business guy, you should probably try to be diplomatic with everybody. You're like, you want the skeptics and the believers buying that shit, not one side or the other. So yeah,
I just want people to enjoy it, man. But
I definitely enjoyed it. And listen, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. You sent these to me like a year ago, probably.
Probably, yeah. I sent a lot of copies out, but like I sent them out to a lot of people on UFO Twitter. Like just kind of like, yeah, like I have a bunch of these here. Take it. But yeah, I as long as you read it, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
I read it. My son read them.
Really? Oh, that's see, that's awesome.
I explained some stuff, and actually he was interested, and then he starts reading them, and he's like, "Is there any heroes in this?" And I go, "Just keep reading it. Shut up. Superman comic. This is serious shit."
Dude, the best compliment I got though was at a coffee shop nearby, and I gave it to a couple people there that like I thought would read it. And one day I show up and I get my coffee, whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, I read the book." I'm like, "Oh, what'd you think?" He's like, "I loved it, blah, blah, blah." He's like, "Did all that stuff really happen?" And I was like, "That's exactly what I want someone to ask." Did that stuff really
that means good. Yeah, that means they thought about it and it affected them emotionally.
Yeah.
Like, wow, did this stuff really happen?
And Steven, the documents in there are real. Just so I don't know if I told you.
Oh, sure. No, I know enough about history to know that you're pulling from real, verified government documents. You're not just making up something and putting it in a panel. That was impressive to me as well. So you're doing this issue 3, and do you think you're going to be doing the film then with these recreations that you're working on?
Well, we are trying to make the case for that. We've had actually talks with like people like associated with Lionsgate, Netflix, but like we have to build. We're trying to build a case that this can be a compelling film, because a lot of times, like I present it to people, even the graphic novel, they're like, "Oh, an alien thing." I'm like, it's not really about aliens. So we're on issue 3 now, and we're like, God willing, finishing up that this year. We're a little late on the Kickstarter, but like we sent out a message and like all that stuff. We're expecting by Q1, quarter 2 of next year to have all 4 completed and shipped. And that'll be that. And that'll be probably like 400 pages of, I think, probably the best UFO story, in a narrative sense. and then we're just gonna continue filming whatever.
It is very good, and
Thank you.
like
Yeah.
I'm pretty critical, but I couldn't really find anything to be critical of because you're not going. It's definitely aliens, and that's what I hate. Do you know what I mean? Like these guys in the stories are going through what could cause this, what could explain this.
Yes.
And the story explains how they're sort of investigating it, and nobody's jumping straight to these are Martians invading or what. So that's why I liked it, because it didn't look, people are asking, does he have a link or name of that Chinese manufacturer? My girlfriend is trying to self-publish her fantasy novel and would love to know where.
Go to Alibaba and look up printing. It's like the hidden
wow.
secret. Yeah. And again, every big publisher does it. No one prints anything domestically anymore. It's just way too expensive. Like
the quality sucks. It's not just the money; it's the quality. And what's funny?
4,
I have a love-hate relationship with China because I'm building some robotics things. I'll just leave it at that. And I get all of the parts from China, and the downside is it takes 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But the upside is it's half the price, and every part I get is 100% high quality, works the way it's supposed to. Chips, microcontrollers, whatever I'm getting is perfect. That's why they're beating the shit out of us when it comes to manufacturing.
Well, that introduces you to the supply chain problem now. And I didn't know this before, but now I understand the supply chain issue where it's like all this stuff is done over there, not just because it's cheaper, right? Because they have the ability to do that, the manufacturing ability, but also it's better. A lot of stuff is better over there. And it's like, that sucks to say as an American. You know what I mean? Like
you do gotta do some checking around to make sure that you're not supporting like child slave labor.
I know. I know. They gave me a whole tour of their facilities and everything, like through the phone. So like it was cool. Like I guess it depends on who you contact, right? But like our people, they were pretty chill, and like they showed us like how everything went down. But like I printed 4,000 here. Right. And like, I mean, it's a considerable sum with a considerable amount of investment you have to make. But for that price, I'd be printing like maybe 500 here domestically. That's a crazy difference for shittier quality, and it makes me kind of like sad as someone that
it's the same situation I'm in with the parts, because I go, do I need it here tomorrow? But then it feels like all of my projects that I'm working on are always on this cycle, Like a big batch of parts comes in, and then I'm working on it for a while, and then I need more parts, but then I gotta wait,
Yeah. But also,
I'm basically building a giant military robot. That's basically what I'm building.
Oh, like does it shoot lasers or something, or like?
I don't know what it's going to shoot yet, but it's just going to be a big scary robot. Like that's what I've decided to do. Yeah,
that's really, really cool. I wish I had the brains for something like that.
It's easy now with these microcontrollers. You just get a fucking slap a laptop on any mobile platform, get a couple microcontrollers, you can control everything. It's awesome.
But that's also speaks to another point. Like we live in an age now where, like, again, I've never made a graphic novel before. And I mean, I work with cameras a lot. So like to do film stuff is like, I want to say it's easy, but like it's accessible. And my point is, if you have an idea, right? Because like we're two guys that like started this off in a basement. If you just have an idea and you pour yourself into it, there are ways to actually make it happen and like materialize it. Even if you're not selling it, like for whatever reason, like you're actually able to complete things that 20 years ago were way out of your reach. And so anybody that has an idea,
yeah, 20 years ago, you would have had to Xerox this thing at the local library or something, and it would look like shit. Because by the way, I had a very close friend in high school. Someday I have to catch up with him because I bet you he's still doing it. He would draw whole comic books, and then he would go and get them printed, but it looked like shit, because he's just like using the school Xerox machine or whatever. But like, you're right, and that's an interesting part of the era that we live in now. And I think AI is going to make that even crazier. Are you worried about AI though? It's going to take over. I'm
excited. I'm also worried. I'm a lot of things, but it hasn't reached the level yet where I'm like, oh, I can make a movie off of this. I personally, I love, directing actors and like framing shots and things like that. So like you can't ever take that away from me. But like I see some of the stuff people are making, I'm like, fuck, dude, in like 2 years, like, I mean, it's changing everything now, but in 2 years, I can't imagine, you know what I mean? Like how much more content's going to be out there, but also how companies are going to be like,
well, I just heard that somebody did a study and decided that 57% of the content on the internet right now, I don't know if this is true, it's a claim, that 57% is AI generated or somehow infused with AI.
57?
If you look on TikTok, there is a shit ton of like channels that do nothing but like top 5 ways to die or top 5 stupidest ways people have died. And if you look at it, being a content creator myself, I could tell they like got ChatGPT to write the script, and then they got an AI to pull relevant clips and put it all together. So there's lots of stuff like that. But you know what's funny about an AI is I always hoped that AI would do all the drudge shit work so that I could spend all my time doing fun artistic things. But now AI is like, oh, we're gonna do all the art. The hell with you humans, you know? Because look at the just even AI songwriters, you know, like it's so good now. Like 2 years ago it was shit, and I was like, nobody's gonna want to listen to this. But now there's all these AI songwriting programs. You could just go and describe the song. This is the style I want. The song should be about this. Write lyrics. You can tell it to regenerate. That's another thing that's weird with AI. Like if you tell it to do like an image and you don't like the image, you just keep hitting regenerate, and eventually you'll get one that
it'll spit it out.
It's what you wanted. Yeah.
It's going to get even worse now, because I think what's going to happen is like, because like we've seen in the last 10 years, it's really all about the algorithm now. So like if you're on TikTok and you like a couple of videos, or you're on Instagram or whatever, your feed is going to be a certain thing, right? So like I think what it's eventually like headed to, if it's not there yet, it's they're going to have algorithms that basically pick up on certain trends that are like, let's say it's like cats, I don't know, on a pineapple or something. Like that's the trend for some reason on TikTok. It's going to automatically detect that and automatically generate content and piggyback off that trend to kind of push out its views. So like somebody
was just saying that it's going to be AI content on demand soon. So in other words, if you go to the YouTube search bar in 5 years, if you go to the YouTube search bar and you go and you put in something like science fiction robot fantasy story or movie, it'll just make it on the fly and then deliver it to you. That's crazy. It's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. It's scary. I'm seeing it in the commercial industry. Like I'm already hearing creative directors being like, yeah, like we're being approached by like, because like, again, what we have access to is not necessarily industrial grade. Some of these people that like are actually like behind some of this more industrial stuff.
Imagine what ILM has. Yeah. Imagine what ILM
exactly.
That
was the name that was mentioned. Like, so like their approach with stuff now where it's like, oh, we don't have to shoot like this product like and spend a whole day with this whole team and then retouching. Like we can generate it and it'll look exactly the same. So a lot of people aren't ready. A lot of creative directors are gonna lose their job. A lot of videographers, photographers already now I'm seeing are like just they can't find work.
Yeah.
It's too hard. So
I know somebody who's an editor. I know somebody who's a video editor and he works for I'd say medium-sized content creators on YouTube. And he's very concerned because they're just going to start using AI to generate some of the stuff that he used to do for them. So, yeah, there's a coming AI apocalypse. Everybody's going to lose their jobs, but, you know, you got to find. I know. Well, one of the things that I'm big on is, you know, I have a background in computer science, but even I can't keep up. There's just so many tools. I have folders on my desktop just with cloud-based tools, and I try them, and then I sort of scale them like, how useful is this really to me on a scale of 1 to 10? And then I grade them and I have them on a spreadsheet right now because there's hundreds of them. You can't keep up. You just can't keep up with them.
It's going to be a strange world. And like to pivot back to the UFO stuff, like we're past the age now. I think we're like, unless we get like a film canister, right, from like the 50s or the 60s with like possibly some sort of like UFO footage that's damning, we're not going to see that anymore. Because now anything can be fake. We've like crossed the Rubicon. And I think it's really, really fucking scary.
Oh, well, that's called the uncanny valley. And actually there's a lot of people saying that uncanny valley, which is the point at which you cannot determine if this is
Yeah.
real or digitally generated has been crossed recently. Like some of these new
Disinformation
things are
paradise.
just, yeah.
You know, so
But you got to
we're
say
gonna
that
have-
some of the AI stuff is fun. Like we found an old science fiction comedy series named Quark, and it was about a space trash man, right? Like it was a comedy about a guy who flies around in a spaceship and picks up trash, and that's his job. And so we AI face swapped Corey Good in there. And then we just re-released it as Corey Good's Secret Space Adventures with Corey Good's face on all of it. It's so good. It's just so
it has
good.
changed the meme game. The meme game is off the hook now. I gotta admit. You know,
Yeah, but
because
that's
of AI.
you gotta think that's funny. Like he's a secret space trash man, right?
I wouldn't even give him that much credit, honestly.
But it's funny how long it takes to render some of that stuff, though. You know, like I have some kick-ass computers render a 30-minute episode or whatever.
What's the thing? Like
And-
sometimes I'm working in Unreal Engine and I'm like, you know, doing this for like hours and hours on end, right? And like, I'm just like, I have to render it too for another 6 hours, and then, oh
Yeah, I could have made just the main character Corey Good, but almost by accident at first it just was replacing everybody's face with Corey Good, and I decided that was funnier, so we just call it Corey Good and his clones save Earth or whatever, right? And it's every character is Corey Good. Even the women are Corey Good.
that's so uncanny.
Professor Markov, we've all been looking forward to your speech on the
Corey Good and his clones.
Of course, my speech.
Congratulations, Squad. It's here.
I'm surprised he hasn't sued you yet.
No, I think he's busy. All those lawsuits that he filed against everybody else failed miserably. Imagine that.
Oh, did they really? I remember those.
Oh, they all failed miserably. Yeah, and
Someone's
they
got to make a
were all-
movie about that. You know, like that. I think that whole episode.
Oh well, there's actually this is the funny part about Corey Good. For 2 or 3 years now, he's been bragging that he's going to make a docu-series about the battle for disclosure and all these stalkers and all this evil stuff they did to him. And what he doesn't know is that somebody was already working on that, but he's not the hero of that docu-series. It is brutal, dude. It is brutal, like a brutal takedown. Yeah, Bill Ryan.
Yeah.
Bill Ryan. Corey Good admits in court that his manager paid Bill Ryan's neighbor to take pictures of Bill Ryan's house so that they could put those pictures in a video, like threatening him.
Oh my god!
And he admits this under oath. Like it's terrible. But there's a docuseries. The trailer to that docuseries is going to drop in the next month, I'm told, and it's going to be on streaming services. And all I don't want to say too much. I was interviewed for it, and I know enough about it that it is not going to be a good day for Corey.
Wait,
Good
when's
and
it coming
David
out?
Wilcock. In the next month or two.
No, all right. I have something to look forward to. Okay,
But
hell yeah.
but the funny part is Corey Good's bragging that he's going to make a docuseries, and of course he would be the hero of the docuseries. And what he didn't know is in the background there was already a production company, a film company, making a docuseries about the whole thing and the depositions, and they've got.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Man,
I'm
it
so
is going to be
interested in that
great.
saga.
It's going to be great. It is going to be the best thing you've ever seen on Corey Good or David Wilcock. I think
You should stream it on your channel.
Well, I'm gonna be given like a 5-minute preview right before it streams. So we're gonna play the preview and talk about it. You could come back on the night we do that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
I know
That's something I've read
over time
about.
already. I apologize, but actually we're not over time because you were 10 minutes late. So we're right on time then. Yeah, I just like to bust your balls. So I appreciate you coming here and you know and listen. I think there was a time that you were like, you said something to me like, "Don't get mad at me, you know, for my grift," or like I fully support what you're doing, like because it's creative and it's artistic and it's well done, it's well researched, and you're not really pushing an agenda. You're just like, hey, isn't this a weird story? Isn't this a mystery? Isn't this interesting?
Thank you. Yeah, dude, I
like
remember
that.
that because that was around the Kickstarter, and I'm like, fuck, man, like I know
You
this
were
community-
afraid I was going to trash you. I know
you were afraid I was going to
trash you, weren't you? No, I didn't trash you. I was like, no, it's okay. He can get some money to make a cool comic book. It's fine. Yeah,
we don't make
I guess
any
I gave
money
you-
off it. Like there's no money to be made off of this. At this point, this is purely a passion project.
Well, here's what you got to do. You got to get Michael Schratt to talk to Donald Trump in issue 4, and then you can make Greer money, dude. You could cash in on the Greer.
Can I do something really dangerous right now? I want to share my screen really quick just to scroll through the book, the first one, just so people get a sense of the artwork.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Hopefully I won't dox myself in any way, but well, let's see.
You just you share when you share screen, you share a window, not the entire screen.
Got
and then
it.
You pick
Okay,
whatever. So whatever your viewer is that you want to share.
I don't even see the. No, you know what? It's not worth doing because I can't even find. Oh wait, here we go.
You go present, share screen, window.
Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. Forget it. It wasn't meant to be.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I apologize then. I would like to see that or show it to people. And it'd be like pretty low tech for me to do it like this. Like, see?
It's okay. I mean, hey, people can look at go to website, blacktielobs.nyc. I do have a preview, like a 30, 40 page preview of the first issue. There's also some cool UFO videos. Another short film we did that is not on here. It's kind of like about the aviary and Doty. But it's just cool UFO stuff. And if anyone's interested and wants to support us, grab a copy. Like every little
buy the
bit
books. Yeah. I got to figure out there's 4 of them or no, on your website you have listed the one. I don't have one of them, so whatever one I don't have, I'm going to buy this week just to be supportive,
awesome, man.
Because I want to see you continue.
It's probably just an alternate cover.
Oh, is it? Well, I'll buy it anyway
Yeah.
because you gave me these, and I feel like that was very nice of you. So the least I could do is buy one. If nothing else, I'll give it to my son, and he'll get pissed off and say, "This comic book sucks. There's no heroes in it." No, he's like, "Is this like history of the aliens and the flying?" So I'm like, "Yeah, he read it.
It's the truth."
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming here, and don't be a stranger. I'll invite you back when we do the Corey Good thing, because I'm telling you, that's going to be like
gladly. I would.
God, is it like, oh man, that guy's going to have a fucking aneurysm when he sees this thing. I think.
All right. Well, thanks, Steven. I have to get to work too. So this was a pleasure.
Yes, and I will. You're going to work now? Don't you live in New York City?
I got to go to work in the morning. I still can work an estimate tonight and then go to work in the morning.
I get it. Yeah.
Like a child.
Yeah. Well, I'm a terrible show host, but I will put your website where people could buy the comic in the description of the video or podcast before, right after broadcast. So
awesome.
And I'll put it in the live chat. Yeah. Keep up the good work. The grift is going good, but you gotta increase the cash of the grift, dude.
I gotta out-grift the grifters. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it's about. All right, you have a great night. Great talking to you. All right, what a fun conversation. See that? Lately I've been thinking that we've burned so many bridges that we probably should start building some. And here's a creative, artistic person that I think is doing good work. I think you will agree that. I don't know. Even if you don't like comic books, if you like aliens and UFOs and the history of this stuff, you would probably like it. So I'm going to put in I'm going to go over to our YouTube channel, and I'm going to put in the live chat here. I'll pin it for him. We got to help him with his grift. It's a good grift, but financially it's not going so well. I'll just put visit estimate of the situation's website, and I'll put the link here. I have to do that from YouTube chat. It'll be pinned in the description, or it'll be pinned in the live chat, and then I'm also editing the video here. 1 second. Okay, so to visit his website is now pinned in the live chat, and I'm going to edit the video. And in the description of this video or podcast, if you're listening on the audio side of things, you will find his website. 1 second. And we really should support people who are doing good creative work. I like the artwork. You know, it's kind of like UFO porn. Some of this artwork. You saw in the thumbnail for tonight's. I used some of his artwork in the thumbnail for tonight's broadcast. That's from the comic book. Anything with crash flying saucers, right? I definitely like. So that's artwork from his project. This is about a UFO crash, and it's included in one of the books. Yeah, you want to get your disclosure boner going. If you like this kind of stuff, I really do think you would enjoy his work. And we want to thank Aki Kama for a kind and generous $5 super chat. Says, I think AI has peaked. It's not going to get too much better. It's like flying cars. It seems so inevitable, but it's not sustainable. That's maybe a good observation. Maybe it can only get so good. But it appears to be improving at an exponential rate, at least to me. And I've been heavily following this for the last several years now. But thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, Aki Kama.
Raise the cash.
All right, we'll take some comments and questions from the live chat before we bounce on out of here. A note about tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure about this, but my wife has offered to do Chinese food night and watch this debate. Neither of us are probably voting or very interested in who wins, but I think that's going to be like interesting to watch. I'm thinking there's going to be some fireworks either way and some drama, and who doesn't like that? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the description of this, in the comments or in the live chat. Who do you think is going to win the debate tomorrow? I am just kind of fascinated with the whole process, especially with these unprecedented things. In my lifetime, I've never seen a nominee on either side just quit, you know, and regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, his performance in that debate with Biden was so overwhelming that Biden just quit. That's pretty interesting to me. I'm also interested in the fact that Kamala Harris appears to be running from the media. She hasn't given one solo interview yet, which I think is incredibly concerning considering how friendly the media is to her. I don't understand it. The whole media, every media outlet except for Fox News is definitely on your side. Why don't you talk more? It may be because the more she talks, the more people don't like her or trust her. Who knows? And just to be clear, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm politically independent. I think both sides are major problems. I think we desperately need a third, fourth, and fifth party in this country because these two choices are terrible. And I don't understand how this is the best that we have. These two? This is really the best that we have? Yes, Al Garay says the loser of the debate will be the American people, us. Yeah, I thought about live streaming it, but I don't do politics, so I think that wouldn't go over too well. And plus, I want to be very clear in that I don't support either of these candidates and likely won't even vote because I refuse to just hold my nose and vote for who I think is the least worst, you know? And also, I think people come here to get away from that kind of stuff. Like we don't take sides in that argument. Again, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I think both sides have major problems. So I wouldn't want to be perceived as being a supporter of either. And also, look, this isn't a political show. And I want everybody to feel like, they can come here. And if I don't want to take sides, in other words, because you just piss off half the audience, no matter which side you pick. I will say that I don't understand this whole system. I don't get it. I don't get the whole thing of Kamala being suddenly, the media really did sort of, I don't know. They're just recreating her, she's the least popular vice president in history, but suddenly she's awesome. I don't know. And the gaslighting bothers me. You know, oh, she wasn't the border czar. You guys said she was 2 years ago, you know? Yes, Operation Shutdown says, I'm glad Truth Seekers has always been a politics-free zone. It's always good to escape from that nonsense. Yeah, I think people appreciate that. So we want to continue, take that middle road. And by the way, whatever decision that you're making, good for you. If you think one side or the other is better, good for you. I can't make that decision because I think they're both terrible choices, right? But we'll see what happens with the debate tomorrow. Yeah, here we go. Rise Above says, I desperately want to avoid politics. Yeah, good. Well, then I think that I'm making the right decision and staying out of that stuff. Above the Cloud says, just watch for the laughs right here. Then full stop, turn politics out of mind after. Yeah, so I'm either going to do an early show tomorrow or a very late show, or I'm just going to skip tomorrow. To be very honest, I can't decide. I have a show ready to go that I could do at any time, I suppose, because all the materials are done and I have notes and talking points and a little bit of a script. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't had a night like with my wife, hanging out with my wife in ages, though. Once you have kids, man, date night is over. I mean, occasionally we get to do things like that, but generally, no, not really. No to Kamala. She didn't do her job as VP. Can you imagine her negotiating with Putin? I'm concerned about that. Yes. And I'm concerned with somebody who has done an awful job asking for a promotion. I will say that. Like, could you imagine if you worked for a corporation and you like were destroying everything that you were in charge of, and then you actually had the balls to ask for a promotion? That's why I don't understand this. Like, I don't get it. And Trump's very problematic. I've never been a Trump fan. I mentioned this before, but I used to have to do business with the Trump casino. And they gave me, like, I would literally have panic attacks because my superiors were like, they haven't paid us in 3 months and you need to go and get the money. And, you know, they were a nightmare to deal with. So I guess I'm biased against him just because of the personal experience I had in dealing with one of his deadbeat companies. David Wilcock will be watching the debate, expecting Trump to name drop him for the cabinet. Yeah. Donald Trump's going to name David Wilcock the alien ambassador to the visiting aliens, right? Yeah. Here Trump doesn't pay up. Yeah. I used to have to like twist their arm, and you know, it was my response. I was a corporate credit analyst, so it was like, it's a weird situation because, you know, you can't say no. Like the salesman will murder you if you say, oh, we can't send $100,000 worth of goods to this casino because they pay like shit. We can't afford to wait for the money that long. So you'd have to approve the purchases, and then I'd have to chase them around for the money for 6 months, and then they'd want more. They'd want $200,000 worth of merchandise and they still didn't pay for the first 100,000. It was a weird situation. It's like walking a tightrope. I don't recommend anybody be any kind of corporate credit person. It's a nightmare. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. So much happier. I am banned from comments indefinitely. 485 comments denied so far. I can still live chat though. Richard Warner, I don't know what you're talking about. No, listen, I will show you right in my, there's people that are hidden from the chat, but that is because they're, you know, very, very problematic people. You're not in there. What do I go to? How do I get into? Oh, settings, community. All right. I can show you the people that are hidden on the channel or banned from the channel. You're not on here. We have Taro Tina. That's Corey Good's idiot. Somebody with an account named Stephen Cambion is a liar. Yeah, they're hidden. Depressed Sydney Fisherman, Tony Rodriguez, that's a fake account, the Mediator, Steven Scambian. That's who's hidden on our channel, and if they post comments, nobody will see it. Notice I didn't say that you were one of those people. So, you know, no offense, but don't keep saying that, because it's nothing on our end. I don't know what you're talking about. You're allowed to post all the comments you want. Now, if you curse in comments or use off-color language, sometimes YouTube will hold those comments. I can even check for held comments. Held for review. I don't see any. I have somebody that says you are an asshole. That's interesting. That one was held for review 3 days ago. Jimmy Kaufman. Why are you calling me that? Jimmy Kaufman for 3165. I don't see any comments from you, Richard Warner. I don't see any held comments, but this reminds me, I'm going to have to start going through this held comment. Yeah, there's a lot of held comments. I don't know why that is, but none from Richard Warner. So I don't know why you can't post comments. They can re-ban me every 24 hours. Who's banning you? I'm not banning you, so I don't know what you're talking about. And no offense, man, but I think a lot of people are like, they use the got it thing. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry you're having trouble, but it's nothing on our end. We don't have an echo chamber here. People can post whatever they want. So comments or questions for me, please put them in all capital letters. YouTube is CIA, Rumble is FBI. Could be, yeah. It's YouTube banning you then. It has nothing to do with me. There's nothing I can do then. If YouTube is deciding to ban you from posting comments on channels for whatever reason, there's not much I can do about that. So listen, I think we've done our due diligence. I want to thank all of our kind and generous benefactors. Also, 1 second. We want to thank, I almost forgot to thank them. 1 second. All right, Mike Larry bought 16 beers. Very, very generous. That's $5 a beer. Bought 16 beers on Buy Me a Coffee. I still have to change that from beer. But in any case, we want to thank Mike Larry, who's the MVP of the Buy Me a Coffee system, for his kindness, generosity, and support. We also want to take a moment to thank you kind and generous Patreon supporters and you kind and generous YouTube channel members. Thank you all for your kindness, generosity, support. And thanks, Mike Larry, the MVP of Buy Me a Coffee.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, friends, it's so nice to feel so blessed. I am so blessed with kind and generous people all over the planet that throw a couple of bucks in our hat. And if you're wondering, you can do that too. Just take a moment and send some cash our way, because we love praising the cash. And we want to take a moment to thank a very kind and generous benefactor. And I don't know, they do not wish to be named, but we'll say ICI gave the biggest PayPal pledge I've ever seen. And we'll leave it at that. I was blown away. I logged into my PayPal and I couldn't believe how much this person sent us. And interestingly, I need a few things. We have this in-person set, but I've never gotten the multiple microphone system working because I need some blips and blobs and pieces for that. That's the only thing stopping us from doing in-person, in-studio guests, because many people are local to me and offer to come to where I film here and be on the show. So thanks to ICI with this monstrous PayPal pledge, we'll be able to do that. I'm going to order the parts and get it done. Thank you so much for helping us to praise the cash.
You're watching Truth Seekers. Praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, friends. I think we're all caught up on thanking our kind and generous benefactors. And we want to thank our guest tonight, Estimate of the Situation. We've been kind of friendly on Twitter for quite some time, but it's fun that we finally got to have a conversation. I thought about doing that off air, but as you guys always know, I always selfishly say, well, we could talk on the phone for a while, or you could just come on the show and I can take my audience with me. I love doing that. So thanks for coming with us tonight for an interesting look at a creative person that's doing what I think is some good work. In the description of this video or podcast is the link to his website where you could support his artistic work. Taryn Stouffer, are you looking for any musicians or songs for Truth Seekers? Sure, you could email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. Most of the music that we use is either mine or friends that are musicians that tell me I'm allowed to use their music in the show. So just email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. And you could send me MP3s or samples or, Google Drive links, whatever you want. And I promise you, I listen to everything that people send me. I may not use it, or I may not use it for a while. Sometimes I just put things in a folder and I go, I got to find a use for that. And eventually I do. But we're thankful for powerful and creative artistic people who say, here, you could use my music. We used to do a musical guest every show, and people would send me like their band's music videos. So if you have anything like that, I'm interested. Okay. So we've done our due diligence. I'm not sure if I'll be back tomorrow. If not, I'll be back on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. But I think I'll be able to squeeze in a show tomorrow. Maybe I'll do the debate with my wife and watch that, and then do a late, like a midnight show here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is that a good time for you? Because it's a good time for me, and I'm not a morning person. I always mean well, and I say, well, I'll get up early, and I'll do the show at like 1 p.m., and then I don't get up early. Yeah. Anyway, we've done our due diligence. I'm not sure when I'll be back. Follow me on Twitter at Stephen Cambion. That's the best way to make sure that you know when the next live show is. I always post them a few hours in advance. And you can visit our website. It's truthseekershow.com. Get all the latest episodes, audio and video. And by the way, for those who have messaged me, we're all caught up on the audio podcast side of things. I got behind because I was spending too much time at the cabin with my family. I didn't have time to deal with it. We're all caught up now, and I'll be posting some bonus audio episodes as well. So that's all I got for you, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
nonsense, 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 nonsense. It's garbage science. Nonsense, 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 nonsense. It's garbage science. Nonsense, 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 nonsense. It's garbage science. Nonsense, 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 nonsense. It's garbage science. Nonsense, 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 nonsense.
Spheres,
we have no evidence.
Pyramids,
we have no evidence.
Cubes,
we have no evidence.
And cigars,
we have no evidence.
Spheres,
we have no evidence.
Pyramids,
we have no evidence.
Cubes,
we have no evidence.
And cigars,
we have no evidence.
Spheres,
we have no evidence.
Pyramids,
we have no evidence.
Cubes,
we have no evidence.
And cigars,
we have no evidence.
Spheres,
we have no evidence.
Pyramids,
we have no evidence.
Cubes,
we have no evidence.
And cigars,
we have no evidence. 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 No evidence. We have no evidence, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence, 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 evidence.